supposed to fly to St. Petersburg, Florida. The National Transportation Safety Board has investigators at the scene north of Dallas. This is Fox News.
Baseball season is in full swing.
Popcorn! Get your popcorn!
It's a good thing Matt secured his denture with Super Polygrip. Now he can enjoy the snacks as much as the game.
Polygrip. Hey, how are you? So great to see you.
It's that time of year when the family meets up.
Hi, come on. Get together, guys. Family photo.
It's a good thing Jack cleans his denture with Polydent so he can enjoy the whole day with confidence.
Polydent.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
Trump administration denying a report suggesting they would settle for reducing instead of eliminating North Korea's nuclear weapons program.
National Security Advisor John Bolton tweeted, quote, "I read this New York Times story with curiosity. Neither the NSC staff nor I have discussed or heard of any desire to settle for a nuclear freeze by North Korea. This was a reprehensible attempt by someone to box in the president."
Fox's Rich Edson at the White House. This following the president's historic walk into North Korea yesterday for an unexpected third meeting with Kim Jong-un. The U.S. takes aim at al-Qaeda in Syria.
For the first time in more than 2 years, the U.S. military killed al-Qaeda fighters in Syria in an airstrike. Officials say at least 8 al-Qaeda fighters were killed inside a training facility near Aleppo province in northwest Syria. Al-Qaeda in Syria was plotting external attacks against American citizens at the time of the strike Sunday, U.S. Central Command said in a statement. Officials say northwest Syria remains a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. Roughly 1,000 U.S. troops remain in eastern Syria.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the Pentagon. A popular theory about turning that frown upside down is put to the test.
Smile.
The idea that smiling will make you happier and frowning can make you mad is known as the facial feedback hypothesis, and a new study says it might not be true. Researchers reviewed 50 years of data that included 300 experiments and found that smiling only boosts happiness a tiny bit. The results published in Psychological Bulletin also found that if 100 people were forced to smile, only 7 of them might be in a better mood. So the next time someone tells you to smile, go ahead and scowl. It probably won't make a difference. Jane Fergus, Fox News.
An hour to the close on Wall Street, the Dow is up about 55 points, pulling back from a record opening. The S&P, though, still right around its all-time high. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news from the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234.5 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426, or Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month and 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income, produced partially by tariffs and flooding, pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Principal Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells Fargo Institutional Retirement and Trust business. Principal said earlier today it's beginning the integration of the Wells Fargo's 401k, pension, executive deferred compensation, employed stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with the deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team and says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $827 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If there are debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who have emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job, I will use this seat to move the political center to the right. There isn't anybody that will disagree that I have done that. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans or no party, they all know that I've kept my word and I've moved the political center to the right.
Congressman King has raised far less than his most prominent Republican challenger, State Senator Randy Feenstra from Hall. Former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad donated to Feenstra's campaign, and the top Republican in the state Senate spoke for a Feenstra fundraiser over the weekend. Republican leaders in Congress stripped King of his committee assignments in January. That came after comments published in the New York Times, where King questioned why the phrases white nationalist, white supremacist, and Western civilization had become offensive. King says he was misquoted. And Iowans who are planning trips this week will find plenty of company on the road. The number of travelers over the 4th of July weekend is expected to set a record, not just for the holiday, but for all holidays. Rose White is a spokeswoman with AAA Iowa. Estimates a record 49 million Americans will be taking trips of 50 miles or more from home during the long weekend.
This is the highest level since AAA began tracking holiday travel 19 years ago. Now, we predict drivers will experience the greatest amount of congestion in the major metro areas on Wednesday, July 3rd, as the commuters mix with the holiday travelers.
Travel volume for the holidays expected to rise more than 4%, with nearly 2 million more vacationers than a year ago. A record high 41 million people will be traveling by car, which means higher demand for gas.
For Iowa, prices are much lower than the national average, currently sitting at $2.53 a gallon, which is 16 cents lower than a year ago.
Factors driving the boosted travel numbers include favorable gas prices, low unemployment, robust consumer spending, and rising disposable incomes. A large refinery in Pennsylvania is shutting down following recent explosions and fires. And White was asked what effect that might have on gas prices in Iowa.
It may or may not at this point. We do not know. We know it certainly will impact the region along the East Coastline, but as they do need additional supplies from other sources, if they do have to tap into some of those in the Midwest, it could certainly tighten our supplies as well.
The national average price for gas is $2.69, down 15 cents from a year ago. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs level off around 90 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 71. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, high of 87. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with storms possible both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 89.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. When you're planning the memorialization of your loved one, you're telling their story and sharing special memories with your family and friends. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, we're proud to help you celebrate the life of your loved one, and we're here to guide you with your selections as we help you and your family say goodbye in a way that's right for you. Our staff is committed to compassionate care and attention to detail. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Warning, sharks sighted in water. Warning signs are handy, but you may not always get one when it comes to your identity or the personal information on your devices. Good thing LifeLock includes Norton Security for more detection and more protection. No one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock looks out for identity threats like your info for sale on the dark web, and Norton Security protects against online threats like ransomware. Join at lifelock.com and use promo code NEWS to get 10% off your first year.
When you're at Fort Frenzy, Wednesday, July 3rd, for the Community Fireworks Celebration, make sure you stick around for the spectacular Lights of Glory presentation. Tune in to Iowa's favorite country, K97, for this special patriotic musical event. Be there to witness a spectacular fireworks show with synchronized patriotic music broadcast live on K97. Lights of Glory, a special patriotic presentation, is brought to you by More Bonding, R&J Material Handling, Riley Armstrong Plumbing, Victory Motors, and Alpha Media.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Okay, here we are on a warm Monday following a pretty warm weekend. And I know what you're thinking. Thank God he's back on the air. Yes, I am, as a matter of fact. I'm Michael Devine, and we are going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Assisting us today is Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church. We're going to have to give you a name to go along with your terminal lateness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Were you getting a haircut? You look like you got a haircut.
I did get a haircut this morning. Yeah.
Oh, you got a haircut this morning?
This morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Who cut your hair?
Alicia Moritz down at Salon Posh.
Sure.
Right by the ice
Salon
cream.
Posh. Very masculine.
I know. I know.
I'm overwhelmed.
Salon Posh. No, she's
Salon
great.
Posh.
She's a church member. She does a great haircut, and she does it at a cheap price too. So.
All right. Okay. I'm okay with it. The old barbers are just about faded away. I don't know if there's any of them still working or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been going to her for a number of years, and I mean, she's a church member, so we've got that connection. So it took me a second to even remember the name of her actual salon because I go to Alicia. You know, it's kind of how I think of it in my mind.
Go to Alicia.
Yeah.
A little bit more macho posturing over here by you, Pastor. Alicia. I go to Alicia. Okay. Well, the world's changed. I want to talk about civility because the Democratic Party in a couple of debates have talked about we must return to civility. We ought to get Trump out of office so we can return to civility.
Good luck.
Yeah, really. Then they have two debates where they're absolutely screaming for blood, each other's and Trump's. Kamala Harris rips Joe Biden a new one over something that happened when she was about 10. And I would just like to point out to Senator Harris that she climbed the political ladder the old-fashioned way. She got a high-powered married boyfriend when she was very young that helped her along. That would be former Speaker of the California House, Willie Brown. Yeah, he was married and, hitting it with Kamala regularly. Joe Biden, on the other hand, was persevering through the loss, a terrible loss of his young family. He was in a different time in our country's history, and he fought valiantly. Biden, for God's sake, has his flaws, but I will stand in his presence every time as a man who has overcome severe adversity, kept his cool, he has kept his dignity, and by the way, pushed Obama to the left. I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think there was a left field when it came to Barack Obama. But actually, Obama revealed himself to be just another globalist in the Clinton form. But Biden pushed Obama on gay rights and gay marriage. Obama was still singing the song, well, I believe in marriage, traditional marriage, and blah, blah. I don't think he really did.
He was trying to kind of toe that moderate
walking that line, right. So now we have these younger people. Pete Buttigieg, he is a gay man, and he would not be the first gay presidential candidate if he were nominated, by the way. I still think that was Hillary Clinton. But they have something in common, and that is globalism and a contempt for workers. And Pete Buttigieg has shown to be the best fundraiser among wealthy, educated Americans who make over $150,000 a year. That's Pete's group over there. So that means I'm not a Pete guy. I'll take this up a little bit later on with my friend from Iowa City, Larry the Liberal, Larry Baker. But for today, let's talk about civility, because
Sure.
that's supposed to be kind of a Christian concept. The Christian gentleman used to run the United States. Of course, they do not now.
Well, believe it or not, just yesterday, just on Sunday, we were talking about love over at the Presbyterian Church. And we were talking about a love for our enemies, a love for those who persecute us.
God, not that.
You were over at Bible at Breakfast last
I
Tuesday,
was.
and I tried to make it a little more straightforward, and just Jesus says we've got to love even the people who are the most difficult to love.
Well,
and
you bring Jesus down here, and while I'm getting the hell kicked out of me, he can say a prayer or something, or forgive the people who are kicking me. But I'm afraid that's a little bit beyond my tolerance.
Well, but I think that's a helpful starting point for this whole conversation about civility, because what I lament is that it seems like the fringe on either side, on the right and the left, gets louder and louder. And meanwhile, there's this large group of people in the middle that don't really know how to speak into some of these issues because of, what's just happened, like with Joe Biden, where the point he was making was, I worked with people I didn't agree with, and he kind of picked the people who were the farthest away from him possible, these old school segregationists, whatever, and we got stuff done. Now, I wanted nothing to do with them. I didn't agree with them, but we had to figure out how to get things done. Now, personally, I think that's very laudable, and I don't expect him to agree with, the segregationists.
That's right.
But I do expect those people who are leading our country to figure out how to work with one another.
See, here's the thing, and you're hitting on something whether you know it or not. What is President Kamala Harris going to do? Is she going to slam her opposition? Is she going to round up the Trumpites and throw them into a cave somewhere? Because she talks like she just liked to do that.
Yeah.
And some of the other Democrats talk that way as well. Cory Booker, what a phony. Here's Cory Booker, big milk dud head Cory Booker, running around our state talking about civility. He's the one during the Kavanaugh hearings and after exhorted the Democratic Party youth, Hitler youth, to get out in the streets and get in the faces of Trump supporters and conservatives and people that they didn't agree with. And by golly, they have. Some nutcase who was the manager of a restaurant called the Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia, a short time after that, kicked Sarah Sanders right out of her restaurant because, oh my God, because some of her cooks were gay or something. Well, we must consider our gay waitresses and cooks.
Well, and I mean, I think really what we're seeing as a country is just this pendulum, and it goes from one end to the other based on who's in power. And, even that hypothetical about what would Kamala Harris do if she were president?
That's right.
Well, and on the flip side, just to kind of throw everyone under the bus.
Is that what we're doing?
Well,
I'll
throw them all under the bus here. That's what Trump was saying the whole time in the campaign, that the first thing he was going to do was lock Hillary up. And so, we've got both of these extremes. And if nothing else, Trump has shown us that the more out there you get, you can't just strong arm your way against the opposition. I mean, our country has too many people in it, and with such diverse opinions that unless we really want to have another civil war, which that's what some people are saying we're kind of moving toward, like, unless that's the direction we want to keep going, I think we all have to consciously say, let's tone down our language, let's find ways to listen to each other, let's find ways to stop accusing each other, which is why I am just fascinated by this Democratic primary. And that it is a race to see who is the most progressive, who is the most out there.
There's not, this is extremism. I mean, when you say that you're in favor of health care for illegals, that's extreme. Reparations, as far as I'm concerned, that's extreme. If you, like Joe Biden, here's Joe Biden, who looked like he'd been dead a couple of weeks. Poor Joe. I mean, he's just not looking good. Bernie Sanders looked healthier, and they're about the same age. But here's Joe saying, if there's an illegal living in the United States who's not committing a crime, we should leave that illegal alone. We should not deport them, should not be arrested, nothing. That's extreme. That is a clear call to violate the laws of our land. And if we're not a country of laws, if we're not a nation of laws, we're nothing. What I have heard from the Democrats is that Trump is an authoritarian. So we must be even bigger authoritarian.
Yeah.
If we get into power, when we get into power, we're really going to smash the people who voted for Trump or who aren't on board with health care for illegals. I think that they're really willing to do that.
Well, and I think really you can go back in the entire 21st century thus far. I mean, if you look at the 8 years we had with George W. and then the 8 years with Obama, I mean, you go from one extreme to the other, and it's just in each election cycle, it gets from the extremes go further out on either side. And so a lot of people would say, well, the reason that Trump was elected is because that's a backlash after, 8 years of Obama and feeling kind of an oppressive liberalism. Well, Obama was elected because people say, it was 8 years of this oppressive conservatism with George W.
It wasn't so much oppressive. I don't think the argument was made for oppression with George Bush.
Certainly,
it was rightly considered that George W. wrecked the damn country, and he did. The big dummy. He lowers taxes, gets into 2 wars that he can't finish. He leans on Donald Rumsfeld and that crazy Cheney, who looks like a bird of prey, and they wreck the country. The only people who were better off were Cheney and Halliburton. So he wrecked the country. It wasn't he was oppressive. He just was going around screwing everything up. The banks crashed.
Well, maybe it was because I was living in Seattle at the time, and so he was thought of as being oppressive.
You were living in another world if you were living in Seattle. I like Seattle.
But I do seem to see this trend that, I mean, we just go from one extreme on one side to the other, and each reaction gets stronger than the one before.
Yeah.
And we got to get off that crazy train.
Well, and that's why I'm glad I'm speaking about this with you. We used to turn to our Christian ministers for guidance on social norms when it came to simple civility.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think Christian ministers, whether they be ministers or priests or whoever, have that sort of moral authority anymore.
They don't. And the church has not had the best examples with this. I mean, when you look at how the evangelical church is kind of lockstep with the Republican Party in so many ways, they've kind of lost the ability to speak into this as well. If you look at like Franklin Graham and others, and yet at the same time, then there are other people who maybe haven't been in lockstep with the Republican Party, but you get other significant church leaders who've gotten caught up in all sorts of scandals. And so they're not really in a good place to offer a counter voice as well. And I think this is something where mainline denominations like the Lutherans, the Presbyterians, and the Methodists probably could have something to offer here. I mean, I look at our own church and I look at the diversity within our church here in Fort Dodge, and
you have a diversity in the Presbyterian Church in Fort Dodge.
I think so, at least politically speaking. I would not say our church is monolithic or anything close to it. And I actually look at that as a good opportunity. I remember a couple years ago, right after Trump was elected, I was at a Christmas party with extended family and relatives, and I had an uncle. It's always your uncle, right? Who brings up politics.
Your crazy uncle.
Yeah.
I'm the crazy uncle, by the way.
And, so he says to me, well, how do you think your church voted in the recent election? And I didn't answer that question satisfactorily to my uncle. And I just said, well, I don't really know how the church voted in the election. I would imagine, based on conversations I've had, that some people voted for Trump and some people voted for Hillary, but I don't know. Maybe it was a 60-40 one way or the other. And my uncle came back to me and said, how can you serve a church that isn't united in its support of a candidate? And that just seemed like such a strange assumption on my part, because the church is not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's nonpartisan. And I think if anything in the church, if we can model how to be together, how to talk to each other, how to disagree with each other, that can really be a unique witness for our world, especially right now where everyone just wants to go to their camp and just crucify the opposite side. I don't think that's going to help us in the long run. So I think Christians really do have a unique opportunity to be a witness to the rest of the world and to speak, to be that voice, to say that we can love other people even if we disagree with them.
I really blame, and I have always considered the Presbyterian Church, the Methodists and Episcopalians, to be over there in a little group that is kind of liberal on social issues and very conservative on business issues. I can think of a couple of your parishioners right now that would fit that. In other words, they believe very strongly. They're capitalists, and they're ready to be tolerant of guys in dresses. I really think the decline of Western civilization can be traced back to Pastor Dave Feldman.
Well, he retired just yesterday, so now you can say it.
No, he's a fine Christian man. But for a while in the 80s and 90s, the churches were under, especially the Presbyterian and Methodist Church, were under tremendous pressure to abandon the plain language of the Bible. I'm thinking of gay marriage.
Sure.
I'm thinking of divorces. A lot of these things. Surprisingly, abortion itself wasn't too contested by the people who are arguing for a biblical society. But by doing that, I think they lost the respect of some who would have come to church. If there are no rules, or if our rules, and I went through this with David Grinberg time and time again, if all we have is love, well, that's cold comfort. All you need is love. Yeah, okay. Well, I have some problems here that I need some guidance with.
Sure.
And you're telling me love?
Well, I think the love described in Scripture does have rules, but it's a way of living that people don't really want to do. They're not interested in, as we talked about earlier.
No, they're not, are they?
It's a self-sacrificing love. It's a love that is willing to turn the other cheek or to do those other things. I don't think that's a cheap love. I think that's a very costly love. That's a love that cost Jesus his very life, and it's a love that cost the early church significance and notoriety and positions of power. But I think the church isn't really interested in that kind of love. We really just want a private kind of love where I'm not really asked to do anything that is going to make me have to give of myself in any sort of way.
That's
sure,
right.
I might vote in a particular way that seems more open and tolerant or whatever, but I'm not really going to, give of my money or of my time or, change the way that I live because of that love. That's where it becomes too costly. I mean,
it's great to run around loving everybody. What are the rules and what are the consequences for breaking those rules? More love?
No,
because I'm all right with that. Give me your wallet.
Well,
you can love me tomorrow while I'm spending your money.
Exactly. Well, the book of Acts, for example, this is one of the few places in the New Testament where people are stricken dead by God. We usually think of that as more of an Old Testament thing. It's Acts chapter 5.
Acts chapter 5.
And it's a husband and a wife who lie to the church leaders. I think it's Peter. They lie that they have not given all that they had. They sold some property and they kept some money for themselves. They thought, let's just make sure we have a little slush fund in case of a rainy day.
Of course.
So they lied and said, yeah, this is all the money that we made on the sale of our property. So here, church, you can have it. And they kept some for themselves. And they fell over dead right then and there.
Wow.
As they lied to the church.
Was Jesus somehow responsible for this or what?
Well, the implication is, that they were stricken.
They were struck down.
They were struck down for not being generous enough in the New Testament.
We'd all be dead with that.
I know.
we'd all be whacked.
It's a sobering story.
It is.
And
for not being generous enough.
Of not selling their possessions and giving to the church and those in need.
I have a Bible app on my phone.
There you go. So anyone listening too, you could, it's free. You could get the Bible app. It's YouVersion if you check out. And I don't get a kickback for that. I just think everyone should have the Bible on their phones because then you've got God's word wherever you go. So you should check that out. And you can fact check me on these kind of things. So,
No. I believed you in the first place. But I was just willing to bring my own interpretation.
Yeah, well, no, that's great. And I have been known every once in a while to get a Bible reference wrong. So, check us on that. It's always a good opportunity to call in and let us know.
I'll tell you, when Father Boehm was here, when he talked church law, he was down. I mean, that guy was never wrong. Wow. He was so impressive. I don't know. I saw Father Damus, Shane Damus. Is that? I saw him the other day eating in a local restaurant.
Is he the new guy?
Well, no.
Your Father Shane, who used to be
Father
here, right?
Shane was here.
Yeah.
Yes, and he was very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And may have played a part. I think Father Boehm told me that Father Shane assisted in his decision to become a priest, but I'm not.
Huh.
You'll have to fact check me on that.
All
one.
right.
All right. All right. Pastor Austin Hill is here. We'll be back.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen. Making radio again. We're getting down with Pastor Austin Hill. Not that far because, he's a pastor and stuff. News is coming up. AM 1400 KVFD.
Baseball and hot dogs, they go together like front porches and rocking chairs. And with Village Hearth Buns, you don't have to go to your local ballpark to enjoy a really good hot dog. Just grill up a package of quality Franks and serve with your favorite toppings on a Village Hearth bun. They're the same delicious buns served at baseball stadiums throughout the Midwest. Village Hearth Buns, baking our best for you.
Hello.
Sarah?
Yes, who's this?
It's Brian.
Brian. Oh, Brian, what are you doing?
I was just thinking about us.
We broke up like 6 years ago.
Has it really been that long?
I'm married, Brian, with 2 kids.
Hey, I like kids.
Of all the things you do when you're drunk, driving is still the dumbest. Alternate transportation is all around you. This message brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news from the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234.5 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426, or Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month from 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income, produced partially by tariffs and flooding, pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Principal Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells Fargo institutional retirement and trust business. Principal said earlier today it's beginning the integration of the Wells Fargo's 401k, pension, executive deferred compensation, employed stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with the deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team. It says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $80 to $27 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If they're debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who've emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job, I will use this seat to move the political center to the right. There isn't anybody that will disagree that I have done that. And whether they're Democrats or Republicans or no party, they all know that I've kept my word and I've moved the political center to the right.
Congressman King has raised far less than his most prominent Republican challenger, State Senator Randy Feenstra from Hall. Former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad donated to Feenstra's campaign, and the top Republican in the state Senate spoke for a Feenstra fundraiser over the weekend. Republican leaders in Congress stripped King of his committee assignments in January. That came after comments published in the New York Times, where King questioned why the phrases white nationalist, white supremacist, and Western civilization had become offensive. King says he was misquoted. And Iowans who are planning trips this week will find plenty of company on the road. The number of travelers over the 4th of July weekend is expected to set a record, not just for the holiday, but for all holidays. Rose White is a spokeswoman with AAA Iowa. It estimates a record 49 million Americans will be taking trips of 50 miles or more from home during the long weekend.
This is the highest level since AAA began tracking holiday travel 19 years ago. Now, we predict drivers will experience the greatest amount of congestion in the major metro areas on Wednesday, July 3rd, as the commuters mix with the holiday travelers.
Travel volume for the holidays expected to rise more than 4%, with nearly 2 million more vacationers than a year ago. A record high 41 million people will be traveling by car, which means higher demand for gas.
For Iowa, prices are much lower than the national average, currently sitting at $2.53 a gallon, which is 16 cents lower than a year ago.
Factors driving the boosted travel numbers include favorable gas prices, low unemployment, robust consumer spending, and rising disposable incomes. A large refinery in Pennsylvania is shutting down following recent explosions and fires. White was asked what effect that might have on gas prices in Iowa.
It may or may not at this point. We do not know. We know it certainly will impact the region along the East Coastline, but as they do need additional supplies from other sources, if they do have to tap into some of those in the Midwest, it could certainly tighten our supplies as well.
The national average price for gas is $2.69, down 15 cents from a year ago. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It'll be sunny this afternoon with a high of 90. That's right, I said 90. Overnight, cloudy with a low of 71. Tomorrow, some rain, maybe a thunderstorm in the morning. Otherwise, sunny with a high of 90 once again. On Wednesday, it'll rain. We'll have some thunderstorms off and on all day. Other than that, it'll be sunny with a high of 85. On the 4th of July, a chance of a thunderstorm, sunny with a high of 85. Friday, well, this is going to get real repetitious here. Friday, a 50% chance of rain with a high of 85. Saturday, more rain with a high of 80. And Sunday, a slight chance of a thunderstorm with, other than that, again, sunny with a high of 80 degrees. So I think that's good weather for the corn and really nobody else. But we exist for corn in Iowa. Right now in town at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Mary Jo Denklaw has passed away. Services for Mary Jo Denklaw will be tomorrow at Gunderson Funeral Home with visitation from 4 to 6 this afternoon at Gunderson Funeral Home. Ann Mackin has passed away. Services for Ann Mackin were this morning at 10:30 at Grace Lutheran Church, and Gunderson Funeral Home is in service to Barbara Dotery. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. 241, 89 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We'll be back with Pastor Austin Hill in a couple of minutes right now with a closing market report. Here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 8 1/4 to 4.12. September down 9 1/4 to 4.15 1/2. December corn down 9 at 4.22 1/2. March down 7 3/4 at 4.31 3/4. July soybeans down 14 1/4 to 8.85 1/2. August down 14 3/4 at 8.89 3/4. September beans down 14 3/4 at 8.96 1/4. November down 14 1/2 at 9.08 1/2. July wheat closed down 14 cents at 5.14. Soybean meal down 8.30 a ton at 3.0480. August live cattle down 25 at 104.10. October up a dime at 105.52. August feeder cattle up 17 cents at 137.02. September up 92 at 137.62. July lean hogs closed up 47 cents at 72.57, and August up $2.70 at 76.85. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Have you heard? New as of July 1st, grain bins will be sales tax exempt in Iowa. The Sukup team thanks the Iowa legislature for backing the ag industry in our home state. With a recent jump in corn prices, now is the time to take advantage of Sukup bins. They're ready to ship, letting you take charge of your grain and maximize your profits. Visit Sukup.com. That's SUKUP.com to find your local Sukup dealer today and learn how we can help you store now, profit later.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
Got a painting or staining project to do? Check out Iowa Doors and Hardware first. Come in now through July 7th during their summer rebates event and save up to $80 on the industry's highest quality products, Valspar interior and exterior paint, and Cabot exterior stains. You're going to love the extensive paint department at Iowa Outdoors and Hardware. It's stocked with everything you need for your summer projects. For all your paint needs, see Iowa Outdoors and Hardware at the junction of Highways 169 and 7, Fort Dodge.
You probably want to eat healthy, but getting enough organic fruits and vegetables into your diet every day is not only time consuming, it's expensive. That's why at Texas Superfood, we've created a blend of the best USDA organic, vine-ripened fruits and vegetables, powerful enzymes and probiotics, and energizing herbs, all in a convenient capsule or powder. We call it Texas Superfood Complete Organic. Hi, I'm naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, and I invented Texas Superfood almost 20 years ago with one goal in mind: to help people like you who lead busy lives get the all-natural nutrition that every one of us needs and deserves. So if you can't, won't, or don't eat all your organic fruits and vegetables every day, Texas Superfood Complete Organic makes eating healthy easy. See our full line of quality nutritional products at TexasSuperfood.com or call us at 855-TEXAS-55. That's 855-TEXAS-55. TexasSuperfood.com.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, you certainly don't want to suck. You don't want to get a reputation in a town this size of being capable of continuous nonstop suckitude. So what you have to do is listen to Michael Devine at KVFD Radio. And joining me in Not Sucking today, of course, is Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church. So thank you, Pastor Hill.
My pleasure. I'm glad to not suck.
All right. We're talking about civility, and where is the motivator to be civil in our society if it doesn't come from faith, if it doesn't come from Christianity or Judaism or someplace?
Well,
where is the moral command for civility? Or is it going to be more of or is civility going to be imposed by government fist? Are we going to move into the authoritarian government that Kamala Harris apparently seems to long for?
Well, look at social media, and look at Facebook and all these platforms that have really not tried to police the way people talk or anything. And I think social media is kind of a mirror for ourselves. We can get angry at Mark Zuckerberg and all these others. But
I don't know about that. I go to Twitter quite often. I don't relate to any of those people.
Well, I know. But so what I'm saying is I think those social media platforms are maybe not a mirror, they're a magnifying glass. And they point out how we're already not doing a good job, how we're doing a terrible job, really, at being civil. And it's so easy to not be civil online. And I think it just demonstrates kind of where we're all headed in our speech and in the way that we treat one another. And what's unfortunate is that because of the way those businesses make their money, through ad revenue and, it's all based on clicks, right? So whatever gets the most attention gets the most promotion. And because of that, then all of the, all the vitriol, all the hatred, all the angry, uncivil kinds of comments and stories about incivility, all of that is what gets promoted, which then it just kind of furthers this idea that everyone is just mad at each other all the time. And then so I should get angry too. And so there really isn't, to your point, there's not an incentive in our society to be civil. And until people can find a way to make money with civility, I don't think
is that what we got to do?
I don't think it's going to change. There might be some group somewhere that's going to
money with civility.
I mean, I think otherwise it's got to come from the church or the faith community, because if it's coming from everyone else, our whole system is set up to breed more controversy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to come from the faith community, because we're in the only capacity to really do that. What's so unfortunate is the church, as we were talking about before the break, in so many ways, the church has been the most capable of spewing vitriol. And
how so?
I think when you get into all these culture wars and you get people who, want to condemn a whole bunch of people, going back to the whole like gay rights kind of thing, you get people who just, want to lambast the media. And I don't think that's how you're going to convert the media. I don't think you're going to convert people by continually just pointing out how wrong they are. And so I think some of the big names in the church, I think Franklin Graham is one of the big ones, or Jerry Falwell Jr.
Oh, I don't know. Those guys are Southern preachers. What they have to, they're very regional in their approach to Christianity, I think.
Well, they're regional in their approach, but I don't think they're regional in their reach.
You don't think so?
I hear about their names. I mean, people will talk to me in church and tell me, oh, did you see this article? Or, I'm so glad this person's taking a stance for, whatever or whomever. I think they have more clout and they say more things and they speak for more people than maybe we might often realize.
Now, here's a, God, I hope this isn't true, but I do see on social media that Beto O'Rourke has actually crossed the Rio Grande into Mexico. He speaks Spanish, and if you forget it for a minute, he'll start speaking Spanish. But Beto, who's an Irish Catholic, Beto has crossed the Rio Grande into Mexico, and he's speaking to asylum seekers, asking for their support. What is this?
It's grandstanding.
Oh, God, I guess it's grandstanding.
I mean,
how bizarre is that?
Well, the irony is, they can't even vote for him.
Well, I think he's telling them probably that I'll let you over the border, support me, on and on and on, and then this will happen. Then you'll be able to vote. In short, we'll make you a citizen. Bada bing, bada boom, and there you are. Full benefits. You probably already talked about healthcare benefits, voting rights, driver's licenses. Why would we have any of those cumbersome rules on citizenship? And does our national identity come that cheap to Beto O'Rourke and some dill rods like him?
Well, I think, immigration is becoming the central focus for this 2020 election. It just is. And, and then with asylum and, and the wall, all of that. And so, every single one of these candidates is trying to differentiate themselves somehow, or, to make the other people look worse or more inhumane. And the unfortunate thing is then people in this vulnerable situation on either side of the issue become, the pawns or the talking points, as opposed to, I think people are using them on every side.
You see, and then we have these other bozos on the other side. Apparently, there has members of the Border Patrol had a secret Facebook page, which of course there's no such thing really as a secret Facebook page. Somebody's going to find it, but Members of this secret Facebook group of current and former Border Patrol agents joked about the deaths of migrants, discussed throwing burritos at Latino members of Congress visiting a detention facility in Texas, and posted a vulgar illustration depicting Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez engaged in a sex act with a detained migrant.
And so
according
they're
to
probably all
screenshot.
on paid administrative leave or something now. Or,
Well,
you know,
some
they're-
of them are retired, but the others are going to be on leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of, I mean, certainly I understand the siege mentality. I mean, we were, I remember being overseas, we were very unkind to, well, the Viet Cong.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
We didn't have a very good concept of them at all, you know.
Well, I mean, if you're killing people, you gotta kind of have that mindset, right? I mean, you can't be feeling like good about the people that you're fighting against in a war. I mean, that's almost, if you're a soldier, you have to view the enemy that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think psychologically you couldn't otherwise.
Well, everybody that was Asian looked like the enemy to us.
Mhm.
So it didn't have to be some character carrying a rifle. It was the whole damn country. You know?
Mhm.
It was a whole subcontinent, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia.
Yeah.
They were all the enemy, you
Mhm.
know? And I understand that, you know. Some of the soft people who stayed home and thought great thoughts in universities are now screwing up the country and the Democratic Party don't understand that. But I do. But even that, I don't think these Border Patrol guys, geez.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things to comment on there. One is there is this troubling trend that anything you have ever said, and I'll be honest, I'll say it right on air, I've said terrible things to people who are close to me that I assumed were private. I've made jokes that were highly inappropriate. I have made jokes, you know, at other people's expense, knowing that it was between a few friends
Right.
or family. And I think every one of us has. Every one of us has said racist comments behind closed doors. Every one of us has said bigoted comments behind closed doors. Now, I'm not saying those comments are okay or anything else, but every one of us has done that. And the challenge in the 21st century is that all of that is public. And, you know, this goes back to, you know, a couple weeks ago, we heard about that Parkland shooting survivor who was accepted into Harvard and then was kicked out because, you know, they had said some racist comments on a Google Doc, you know, with their friends a few years ago. So part of this is that we still don't understand the wide reach of technology in our lives. And in the 21st century, that literally every word we say can be used against us. And if we have enough influence, will be used against us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if our platform grows enough, someone will find something somewhere that I said at some point in time that'll make me sound like a big jerk. I mean, that's just life.
So who cares?
Well, but apparently a lot of people care.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
well-
here we are reading about it, you know, 4 states away, and these guys are going to lose their jobs over it.
Probably, and they shouldn't, but they should be reassigned. Clearly, these men are, or I assume most of them are men. There could be women here.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly you don't want people on the Border Patrol who have those kinds of feelings, right?
Yeah.
But I think what we're also learning is that every one of us in every pocket has those kinds of feelings. And one of the things that gives Trump so much power is that he actually just says those things that so many other people think, but don't feel free to say. And because people's thoughts seem to be policed and their comments seem to be policed, the only place they have power is, you know, in the voting booth. And by, you know, bringing other politicians like him into power. So I don't think the answer is just policing our comments and, you know, enforcing things that can or can't be said. Again, you can't strong arm your opinion onto people. But I do think we need to find ways to listen to other people. We need to find ways to create space and to actually have conversation with people we disagree with.
Well, this illustration or the Photoshop something shows Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez apparently performing oral sex on Donald Trump. Now, that's disgusting. I have also seen another illustration of Vladimir Putin sodomizing the president. This is
Mhm.
how far we have fallen. This is how ugly our country has become. And there are people on both sides of this sneering about it and cheering about it.
Yeah.
You know, these border agents, they're in a state of shock. Really,
Mhm.
this is what happens when they're been overloaded for too long, when they've seen too much.
Well, so look at what we've done on this radio show. I'm really proud of the conversations that Father Patrick Boehm and I had together on
I
this
am as
radio
well.
show.
I think we did something good there.
And if you go with me here for a minute on this, just think back in the last 75 years alone, the work that has happened between Catholics and Protestants. And you can attest, in your own lifetime growing up, that when you were a kid, as a Protestant, I mean, there was a big divide between Protestants and Catholics. And
oh yes, there was.
And and the other way around.
Ask some of your older parishioners.
Yeah.
I can point out a few that had
Well,
some
and I,
very
even,
definite ideas on the Catholic faith.
And so yet when Father Patrick and I were here talking about our own approaches to these Christian holidays, to the season of Advent, or to Christmas, or to Easter, we both were continually learning things about one another, learning things about ourselves, and learning things about our faith. And that came out of the two of us sitting down and respecting each other and
That's
talking
right.
to each other.
That's right. Father Boehm was on board with that.
Yeah. And that's something that literally in many of our lifetimes has changed dramatically.
Dramatically.
That 50 years ago, you would not have a Catholic and a Protestant having a civil conversation, certainly on the radio, talking about what they believe in a way where they weren't trying to attack or tear the other person down.
Sure.
And I look at that as a model for what we can be doing as a whole in the country. And that's where we in the church, we've got that specific opportunity to lead the way, to say these are real differences that, just 250 years ago, we were killing each other over these differences.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are finding points of common connection.
Oh, that was, yeah, I was very impressed, even though all I did was run the controls. Really.
Well, but I think it's providing a forum or a venue for that. And
Yeah.
how can we do that more? How can we find other opportunities to get different people in the same room and to just talk to each other?
Well, the key is, of course, getting the right people.
Yeah, that
Father
too.
Boehm and you were the right people at the right time. Some are not willing to do that.
Sure.
Some believe their faith will be questioned. Father Boehm was great, was courageous, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
as were you. Older members of his church and your church may not even want to hear the conversation.
Sure.
So I was glad that happened.
So I think the question,
every now and then on this radio show, I talk a lot about this is the greatest and I'm the greatest. But every now and then in this show, we do something good.
Yeah.
And that was an example.
Well, and how do we keep doing it? That's the thing. Where are the next opportunities that we can think about?
Well, I'll be thinking about them.
And I would encourage the listeners too. They can even call in sometime.
Yes,
some
absolutely.
ideas.
Call in with some ideas. 515-955-1400. Now, some of my listeners will call
might
in to
get a
say,
crazy
"Get off
idea."
the air." well, we can start by getting you off the air, Divine. But they're Democrats, so we don't pay much attention to them. Anyway, Pastor Austin Hill has been our guest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bible at breakfast tomorrow, 6:30 at Zakir's, 6:35 if your name is Austin Hill. All right, the news is next. Then we'll talk with Randy Feemstra right here at KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
They won't settle for less. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That message from National Security Advisor John Bolton denying a New York Times report that the administration would consider a nuclear freeze by North Korea instead of denuclearization.
Administration officials say the position from this administration is still to get North Korea to dismantle its weapons program. North Korea has publicly pushed the administration to change its negotiating position to agree to give up on sanctions, though the U.S. has refused, saying the sanctions go only when North Korea disarms.
Fox's Rich Edson at the White House. This comes a day after President Trump's unexpected third meeting with Kim Jong-un, which included an historic walk into North Korea. The White House just reacting to Iran's announcement that that it is now violating the 2015 nuclear deal by boosting its uranium stockpile. The White House says the deal should never have allowed any uranium enrichment and that the U.S. maximum pressure campaign on Iran will continue. President Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal last year. Potentially bad news from a federal judge for a congressman accused of corruption. Fox's Gernal Scott has this live.
Elisa, a judge ruled charges against California Republican Duncan Hunter, including misusing campaign funds and trying to hide it, will stand. The hearing was full of legal maneuvers. Prosecutors claim much of Representative Hunter's misuse of money was to not only live lavishly, but to cover up a number of affairs. Hunter's defense responded with claims of political bias against federal attorneys. They also want to change the trial's venue. The judge did not rule on allowing Hunter's wife, Margaret, as a prosecution witness. She pleaded guilty to corruption last month. The trial is set to start in September, Lisa.
Thanks, Gernal. A rally to start July on Wall Street. The Dow up 117 points at the closing bell after a record opening, fueled in part by renewed optimism about trade talks with China. This is Fox News.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing into their black one, which is backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong.
Angry anti-government protesters smashed their way literally into the city-state's main government building, Parliament Chamber. They were equipped with hard hats and gas masks. Once they got into that chamber, they started spraying graffiti. They ransacked desks. They basically occupied the place. As we saw when we were in Hong Kong last week, they were well organized, using social media and other means to communicate and move forward. We also witnessed last week firsthand police showing restraint. And in fact, the police let this whole thing happen for several hours.
Fox's Greg Palcott in London. Hong Kong police eventually using tear gas and batons to disperse the protesters. A white man in Mississippi is now facing federal charges for a cross burning nearly 2 years ago.
A court filing accuses Graham Williamson of building a large wooden cross near the home of an African-American family and lighting it on fire in the town of Seminary, Mississippi, near Hattiesburg. The incident took place in October of 2017. It could land Williamson in federal prison for decades. Prosecutors say a second man, Louis Bernard Rivette, has already pleaded guilty in the case. He's facing prison and $500,000 in fines. Both Williamson and Rivette are white. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Wall Street hopeful about the U.S. and China restarting trade talks. Shares of chip makers higher, especially after President Trump's tweet about easing restrictions on telecom giant Huawei.
He said this, at the request of our high-tech companies and President Xi, I agreed to allow Chinese company Huawei to buy product from them, which will not impact our national security. That put a bid under these stocks. That's why they're higher today.
Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis at the New York Stock Exchange. Again, the Dow up 117 at the closing bell, but shy of a new record. The S&P, though, holding on to record territory. The NASDAQ up as well. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher, reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234.5 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426, or Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month from 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income produced partially by tariffs and flooding pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota.
So you
Principal
ready?
Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells
Randy, if
Fargo
you want to call
Institutional
back in 5,
Retirement and
that's
Trust
all
business.
right.
Principal
If
said earlier
you'd rather
today it's
hold, you
beginning
can
the
do that
integration
too.
of the Wells Fargo's 401k,
I'll just stay on
pension,
hold.
executive
That's fine.
deferred compensation, employed stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with the deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team. It says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $80 to $27 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If they're debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who have emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job, I will use this seat to move the political center to the right. There isn't anybody that will disagree that I have done that. And whether they're Democrats or Republicans or no party, they all know that I've kept my word and I've moved the political center to the right.
Congressman King has raised far less than his most prominent Republican challenger, State Senator Randy Feenstra from Hall. Former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad donated to Feenstra's campaign, and the top Republican in the state Senate spoke for a Feenstra fundraiser over the weekend. Republican leaders in Congress stripped King of his committee assignments in January. That came after comments published in the New York Times, where King questioned why the phrases white nationalist, white supremacist, and Western civilization had become offensive. King says he was misquoted. And Iowans who are planning trips this week will find plenty of company on the road. The number of travelers over the 4th of July weekend is expected to set a record, not just for the holiday, but for all holidays. Rose White is a spokeswoman with AAA Iowa. It estimates a record 49 million Americans will be taking trips of 50 miles or more from home during the long weekend.
This is the highest level since AAA began tracking holiday travel 19 years ago. Now, we predict drivers will experience the greatest amount of congestion in the major metro areas on Wednesday, July 3rd, as the commuters mix with the holiday travelers.
Travel volume for the holidays expected to rise more than 4%, with nearly 2 million more vacationers than a year ago. A record high 41 million people will be traveling by car, which means higher demand for gas.
For Iowa, prices are much lower than the national average, currently sitting at $2.53 a gallon, which is 16 cents lower than a year ago.
Factors driving the boosted travel numbers include favorable gas prices, low unemployment, robust consumer spending, and rising disposable incomes. A large refinery in Pennsylvania is shutting down following recent explosions and fires. The White was asked what effect that might have on gas prices in Iowa.
It may or may not. At this point, we do not know. We know it certainly will impact the region along the East Coastline, but as they do need additional supplies from other sources, if they do have to tap into some of those in the Midwest, it could certainly tighten our supplies as well.
The national average price for gas is $2.69, down 15 cents from a year ago. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs level off around 90 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 71. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, high of 87. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with storms possible both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 89.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, where we always question whether we should pay for transgender surgery. And by the way, we always stand by the flag as well. All right, joining us today is State Senator Randy Feenstra. How are you, Randy? Great to have you on the program.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. It's great to be on. I love always talking with you.
You probably were holding and listening to the news there where Congressman King, who your opponent for the Republican nomination to be our next congressman in the 4th District, was talking about a couple of things. So I'd like to contrast your positions with Congressman King's, if you don't mind. First of all, Congressman King has been in trouble for some of his portrayal of illegal immigrants. Where do you stand on the issue of illegal immigrants in our country?
Well, first of all, Mike, it comes down to the borders. We got to build the wall. That's where it begins. We got to have safety on our borders. The wall has to be built. I stand with Trump in this area. That's where it begins, and then there's got to be a lot of other solutions as we move forward from there. But it starts with building the wall.
Well, the governor of the state, not Congress, not a state senator, not anyone, the governor of the state can sign an order that Iowa use E-Verify. Would you be in favor of E-Verify in Iowa?
Yeah, exactly. We as a Senate, we voted on this past session, and I was one of the members that supported the bill, co-signer, and we passed it in the Iowa Senate. And we were waiting for the Iowa House to pass it, but they did not pass it this year. So people know exactly where I stand on that issue.
Our guest is State Senator Randy Feenstra. He is trying to be the next congressman from the 4th District. Congressman King was relieved of his committee assignments. Do you believe that was justified?
Well, whether it's justified or not, I mean, it really created a problem where he's isolated himself and he lost his effectiveness. I mean, no longer he's not on any committee. So it really creates a problem when you're trying to further the conservative agenda for the 4th District and for Iowa. And that's why I'm stepping forward, because we need a seat at the table. When you think about number 1 for 3 in ag, whether it be in production, cattle, hogs, eggs, crops, we need a seat at the table when it comes to these issues. And King has cost himself that by his comments.
Well, conservatives like to talk about guns and God, Senator Feenstra. Where do you stand on those issues?
Yeah, I've been a very active supporter of the Second Amendment. We did a lot of great things in the Senate over the last several years. Now, some of these things haven't got passed, but I am number one when it comes to Second Amendment and the right to carry, the right to bear arms. It is so important. I mean, it's one of the inalienable rights that we were given by our founding fathers, and that has to be protected at all costs.
You know, I watched the Democratic Party debates, both of them, where I watched as much as I could have because it's my job, Randy. I would have never voluntarily did it. But I was shocked during the second debate when a moderator asked a question, how many of you support health care for people in the country illegally? And everybody rose their hand. My God, the United States is a wealthy country, but we can't afford that.
Exactly. I mean, to me, this is a watershed moment for our country. You know, whether it be socialism, giving away healthcare, giving away, saying, hey, we're going to pay for everybody's college, taxing the rich at 70%. I mean, this is, it used to be that we just sort of talked a little bit about socialism. They're just full bore saying we're going to go down these paths of socialism. It's a scary time. And we have to be very active in protecting ourselves. You start going down that path. How about us? We talk about everybody else that's illegal, but how about us that are here? We have to pay the bill. We are paying taxes. So I'm very passionate about making sure that capitalism prevails and that we help ourselves first.
Well, we do have a healthcare conversation going on in our country right now. Of course, Bernie Sanders, others, Elizabeth Warren, have come down, health care for all. How do you feel about health care? What's your solution to health care in our country?
Well, first of all, I mean, we can't go down the health care for all. We have to change, and I would love to start over with affordable health care. I mean, pull it out by its roots and start over. I've been in the health field for some years. I'm actually getting my doctorate in healthcare administration. It starts by cost containment. We got to contain costs. And then what we have to do is work with those, that we can be proactive in helping those to reduce the different medical issues that are going on. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do to be proactive and cut the costs and do cost containments. And we can make it a lot more affordable and cheaper by doing those things.
I've been telling my friends who ask me about the race in the congressional fourth, and this is what I tell them. Well, the winner is going to be the Republican nominee. I don't believe, and I want your input on this, I don't believe that any Democratic candidate right now can win the congressional fourth. Do you believe that a Democrat could beat Steve King?
Well, I just look at the last election, and we have 65,000 more Republicans than Democrats. 65,000, and 3,000 last time. So being that close and getting that close to getting beat, I think this time Democrats would be all in, and that's why we need to make sure that we have a leader that can be effective and push the conservative agenda and get elected. This is such a crucial time in our nation, and we need somebody that's very active.
Well, I am concerned about our drift to authoritarianism. By that, I mean our Democratic neighbors and countrymen seem to believe that Trump is an authoritarian, that the president of the United States is somehow a friend of Vladimir Putin, and he believes in the strongman philosophy of government rather than a democracy. Now, the kicker here is that the Democrats offer real authoritarianism. If you listen to Senator Kamala Harris and others, they want very much to literally silence the opposition. Is that a concern of yours, or am I just out here in the corn yelling into the sky about it?
No, Mike, you're absolutely right. But what we need to do, which Trump has done a great job on, is holding our holding countries in check, holding China in check, holding Russia in check. I mean, it's been far too long that these countries have been playing games. Iran shooting down, shooting down one of our planes over the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, it's time to hold people accountable. I mean, this just can't happen when they're shooting down drones and things like this. And I'm glad that things are happening and that Trump is finally taking a stance with some of these countries.
Our guest is State Senator Randy Feenstra. He's running for the Republican nomination for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. Randy, are you a CPA or a business major? I forgot now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been in banking quite a few years, and now I teach business and economics at Dordt College. I do not have my CPA, but I do have my master's in public administration, and like I said, getting my doctorate in business administration in the healthcare field. So I'm very passionate about being a lifetime learner, because the more we can learn, the better we can create stronger policies.
I don't know if you knew this. I hope you can visit Fort Dodge soon and be on the air, and it would be great for you to meet some of our local people. We have perhaps the greatest basketball player ever to grace the court at Dordt College in Marlow Brandenhorst. I know you'd want to meet him. He's one.
I know all about him. Ain't that something? Yeah, absolutely. Just for you listeners out there, my daughter plays at Dordt, and her jersey right now is in Knoxville, Tennessee. They got it in the Ring Hall of Fame for ladies, and that's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud dad of that.
Is that you actually have heard of Marlow Brandenhorst?
I have. I really have. You betcha.
That's a little frightening to all of us here in Fort Dodge, sir.
But I love the people in Fort Dodge. There's so many great things going on, and you know, I'm just going around the 39 counties and doing parades, starting with doing a lot of fairs, starting with the fairs right now, and just trying to have people understand who I am, what I stand for, and how important it is to have effective conservatism in our 4th district.
What is your greatest fear?
But the greatest ethical fear is two things: that we pivot and we start going down this path of socialism. I mean, it is real. And when you start hearing the debates of last week, boy, it is on the forefront. And then what is happening with social conservatism, what they want to do. I mean, when you talk about abortion, we have the right time. We have 5 or 6 states already going down the path of heartbeat bill. But you have the other side that is simply saying, hey, you know, you can kill a child when it's already born. I mean, these are pivotal times, and we've got to be active and making sure that we can be effective.
Well, I agree with you. When you have every Democratic candidate holding their hands up in response to the question that should illegals be eligible for health care in this country, if you have former Vice President Biden saying that if a person is in the country illegally but they have committed no crime, they should not be deported. That is open borders. Right. Do you? I mean. What can our response be to open borders? That's criminality.
Exactly right. And we got to enforce the rule of law. I mean, we have law in the books, and that's why people are coming over there, because they like our justice system, right? Because we protect, all right? But it goes two ways, and we have to make sure that we protect our borders and that our rule of law prevails.
Well, I can't believe we actually have to have this conversation about the rule of law.
I agree. But it's sort of sad.
Yeah, but here we are. I mean, wow. Do you consider yourself the front runner at this time?
I do. I mean, we've been doing a great job. I have so much support from across the 4th District. And that's what I say. I think people realize that we need a seat at the table. And we have so many great things happening in the 4th District, and we need an advocate.
I've heard, and I think we've talked about this before, there are those who believe that your candidacy is backed by people in the ag business who want cheap immigrant labor. Is that true?
I tell you what, I am supported by business people, ag people. I'm supported by ag people because they realize that we do not have a seat at the table. When we did the last ag bill, all right, our congressperson was not on that ag bill. We can't have that. When we are number 1, 2, or 3 in the nation, and when we create food for the bread basket of the world, we need it. We need somebody that can advocate for our beliefs. And no, by the way, again, we got to build our borders and solve our immigration problem.
What is the solution? Nancy Pelosi says we need to straighten out the situation in the countries of origin. I mean, she must think that we're as powerful as God Almighty. How are we going to go down to the Honduras and wave our magic wand and fix that country? It seems a ludicrous thing to say, but of course it wouldn't be the first time I've heard her say something ludicrous. So what is the solution then to this border crisis? It is a crisis now.
Oh, it's an absolute crisis. It is an absolute crisis. And like I said, I stand with Trump. We got to build a wall. I mean, that's where it starts. And then from there we can enforce the rule of law and say, hey, the rule of law says that you have to be here legally, and we start going down that path, and that's what has to be done.
You know, I heard today, and this is incredible. I heard today that Beto O'Rourke crossed the Rio Grande, and he was talking to asylum seekers, asking for their support. Beto, by the way, speaks Spanish, and if you forget he speaks Spanish, he'll tell you about it every 5 minutes.
I think we heard on the debate. I think he spoke Spanish in the debate last week.
Yes, he did. I believe one of the moderators spoke Spanish from MSNBC, and I can't remember the man's name, and I apologize. But I've never heard of a someone who wants to be president of our country going to another country and asking for the support of people who aren't citizens.
Yep. No. I stand with Trump. I stand with the president. We've got to build a wall. It is time.
Have you ever met President Trump?
I have. I got to meet him several weeks ago. I just had a little conversation with him. It was wonderful.
All right. Randy, I really appreciate you being on our show. We've been talking with State Senator Randy Feenstra. We hope to have him on fairly regularly, and of course, we'll have Congressman King on as well. I understand there's a couple of others seeking the Republican nomination, and I believe, as Senator Feenstra and I have been talking, that the Republican nominee for the 4th District will win. There are those who believe there's only one candidate that can lose. But I do appreciate the time that you spent with us today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing?
No, I just want to say, hey, it's an exciting July 1st, and from the state side of government, we have over $1 billion in the bank. We have been fiscal conservative. We've done a great job, and now our property tax relief bill goes into effect as of July 1 right now. I'm really excited about where things are going in the state, and I've proven leadership in the state, and I want to bring that to the federal level.
Senator Feenstra, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me on, Mike.
All
Always
right.
great to talk to you.
All right. Thank you, sir. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. That's what we're doing, making radio great again, because, social media, all the different podcasts. I mean, there's so much available out there that radio just can't afford to suck anymore. Fortunately, I am here. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, we'll talk about Hunter Biden in the next segment. That poor kid is all screwed up.
Now that the USDA has relaxed some of the rules for the use of cover crops on prevented plant acres, farmers across the country are facing an additional problem: finding enough cover crop seed. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. We'll hear from Patrick Reed from La Crosse Seed and get an update on what cover crop seed availability looks like this summer. Next on Managing for Profit.
Time. It's the eternal measure for growers everywhere, influencing the ebbs and flows of every season. Through it all, Nutrien Ag Solutions stands with you, offering agronomic power, local expertise, and access to solutions to help you lead the field. Because the time to act is right now. Find your local crop consultant at nutrienagsolutions.com.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much. I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Patrick Reed with La Crosse Seed tells Brownfield the quick forage seeds like oats, peas, and barley were used up quickly, and that forced farmers to look at summer annuals,
which are commonly sorghum sedans, forage sorghum, sedan grass, taft grass. There's been a gigantic run on those products for the last 6 weeks nationwide, and they're basically unavailable at this point. There are some products here and there that are available. Now with the Prevent Plant and the new regulations that you can harvest after September 1st instead of November 1st, that's put even more activity on finding the right seed to be able to grow some forage, feed the cattle. It's been very difficult for the farmers, and we really wish we could get more seed, and every company like ours wishes there was more seed available to help them out, and I think everybody's doing the best they can.
So what seed is available? Where's it coming from now, since supplies are pretty low?
The big things that are still available right now would be some oats. We worked very hard to secure additional oats that would be available right now. Also looking at forage grasses, things like annual ryegrass, even perennial ryegrass, intermediate ryegrass.
Reed says those cool season grasses might not be ideal in July, but they're not a bad option for a quick forage when planted in August. He says clover and clover mixes are another option.
Right now, a very popular mix is something like oats and radish, where it's something that'll grow quickly. You can graze it later on after that date. It'll help protect your soil against erosion. It'll keep the weeds down and avoid all the issues you'd have if you just left that field go fallow, while providing you some nice forage here early this fall and possible grazing opportunities. If you're a grain farmer and you don't have any cattle, some of the best cover crops are just going to be simply a small grain or a small grain brassica, like a radish mix. They're economical, they work well, and they're still available right now.
Reed says the best advice is to talk to seed dealers immediately to see what's available and secure it. But if you're planting in August, there's some good news.
Right now, the seed is tight, but that will change to some degree as we move into fall. So late July to mid-August, products like cereal rye will become available again, which there's none available now, but it should be much more widely available in that time frame.
That's Patrick Reed from La Crosse Seed, and I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When you're at Fort Frenzy, Wednesday, July 3rd, for the Community Fireworks Celebration, make sure you stick around for the spectacular Lights of Glory presentation. Tune in to Iowa's favorite country, K97, for this special patriotic musical event. Be there to witness a spectacular fireworks show with synchronized patriotic music broadcast live on K97. Lights of Glory, a special patriotic presentation, is brought to you by More Bonding, R&J Material Handling, Riley Armstrong Plumbing, Victory Motors, and Alpha Media.
Warning, sharks sighted in water.
Warning signs are handy, but you may not always get one when it comes to your identity or the personal information on your devices. Good thing LifeLock includes Norton Security for more detection and more protection. No one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock looks out for identity threats like your info for sale on the dark web, and Norton Security protects against online threats like ransomware. Join at lifelock.com and use promo code NEWS to get 10% off your first year.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 8 1/4 to 4.12. September down 9 1/4 to 4.15 1/2. December corn down 9 at 4.22 1/2. March down 7 3/4 at 4.31 3/4. July soybeans down 14 1/4 to 8.85 1/2. August down 14 3/4 at 8.89 3/4. September beans down 14 3/4 at 8.96 1/4. November down 14 1/2 at 9.08 1/2. July wheat closed down 14 cents at 5.14. Soybean meal down 8.30 a ton at 3.0480. August live cattle down 25 at 104.10. October up a dime at 105.52. August feeder cattle up 17 cents at 137.02. September up 92 at 137.62. July lean hogs closed up 47 cents at 72.57, and August up $2.70 at 76.85. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234 1/2 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426. Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month from 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income, produced partially by tariffs and flooding, pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Principal Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells Fargo Institutional Retirement and Trust business. Principal said earlier today it's beginning the integration of the Wells Fargo's 401k, pension, executive deferred compensation, employed stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with a deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team. It says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $827 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If there are debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who've emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job, I will use this seat to move the political center to the right. There isn't anybody that will disagree that I have done that. And whether they're Democrats or Republicans or no party, they all know that I've kept my word and I've moved the political center to the right.
Congressman King has raised far less than his most prominent Republican challenger, State Senator Randy Feenstra from Hall. Former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad donated to Feenstra's campaign, and the top Republican in the state Senate spoke for a Feenstra fundraiser over the weekend. Republican leaders in Congress stripped King of his committee assignments in January. That came after comments published in the New York Times, where King questioned why the phrases white nationalist, white supremacist, and Western civilization had become offensive. King says he was misquoted. Iowans who are planning trips this week will find plenty of company on the road. The number of travelers over the 4th of July weekend is expected to set a record, not just for the holiday, but for all holidays. Rose White is a spokeswoman with AAA Iowa. It estimates a record 49 million Americans will be taking trips of 50 miles or more from home during the long weekend.
This is the highest level since AAA began tracking holiday travel 19 years ago. Now, we predict drivers will experience the greatest amount of congestion in the major metro areas on Wednesday, July 3rd, as the commuters mix with the holiday travelers.
Travel volume for the holidays expected to rise more than 4%, with nearly 2 million more vacationers than a year ago. A record high 41 million people will be traveling by car, which means higher demand for gas.
For Iowa, prices are much lower than the national average, currently sitting at $2.53 a gallon, which is 16 cents lower than a year ago.
Factors driving the boosted travel numbers include favorable gas prices, low unemployment, robust consumer spending, and rising disposable incomes. A large refinery in Pennsylvania is shutting down following recent explosions and fires. The Lamp was asked what effect that might have on gas prices in Iowa.
It may or may not. At this point, we do not know. We know it certainly will impact the region along the East Coastline, but as they do need additional supplies from other sources, if they do have to tap into some of those in the Midwest, it could certainly tighten our supplies as well.
The national average price for gas is $2.69, down 15 cents from a year ago. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs level off around 90 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 71. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, high of 87. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with storms possible both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 89.
The All-American Hot Dog is celebrated in July. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Hot dogs came to America from Europe in the 1800s and have been served by presidents, enjoyed by astronauts on the moon, and by people at backyard cookouts. Eric Mittenhall with the National Hot Dog and Sausage Association says hot dogs are loved for their taste.
They're delicious. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we want to eat foods that we enjoy, and hot dogs are a food that we enjoy. They put a smile on our faces, and there's health value to that, to enjoyment of food. And so it's one of those other factors that is important, that people enjoy their food and if they're great tasting.
And he says hot dogs are a good source of nutrition.
A standard beef hot dog is about 190 calories. It gives you a good boost of protein with 7 grams of protein. And it also gives you the same nutrients that you're going to get from other meat products. So things like vitamin B12, which is a really important nutrient for metabolism and brain development, iron, zinc, niacin. So lots of nutrients in hot dogs, and it's with everything. It's about moderation. So eating a hot dog all the time, probably isn't the best idea, as with many other foods. But you can fit it into a well-balanced diet and something you can enjoy on a regular basis, but with other foods as well.
Americans eat 7 billion hot dogs between Memorial Day and Labor Day. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council. To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Anna Smith, your bilingual real estate agent with Neighborhood Realty. Did you know the average person moves 5 times over their lifetime? If it's moving time for you, Neighborhood Realty is ready to help sell your home quickly and professionally. We know the area, the market, and we have a growing number of agents working as a team to get your home sold. But that isn't what's most important. At Neighborhood Realty, we'll list it, we'll sell it, and you'll move on. Para vender o comprar su casa, llame al 515-576-2102 or visit us at neighborhood-realty.net.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
With the Capital One Saver Card, you earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment.
Does that include dinner at that new French place?
Yep, 4% cash back there.
How about bowling with my friends?
Yeah, 4% cash back on that too.
Nice.
And that'll be a rewarding weekend. Because with the Capital One Saver Card, you earn 4% on dining and entertainment. So when you go out, you cash in. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Capital One Bank, USA, N.A.
Ever wonder why Europeans speak so many languages? Is it because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe? Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons and award-winning technology can have you speaking Spanish, French, or German within weeks.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
For a limited time, try Babbel for as low as $3.50 a month and get a whole year of unlimited access. That's BABBEL.com and select your language.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. That's what we're going to do again this afternoon, make radio great again. Radio is going through a very trying period, but of course, we'll pull this AM out of the dumpster fire and make it profitable again. That's the whole thing. You have to have something for people to listen to. You can't just put on some sort of music and run the same thing over and over and over and over again. They can get music anywhere. I mean, they can program their own music. What, on those Spotify things? I don't subscribe to them myself because I listen to primarily talk radio anymore. But when I do listen to music radio, it's usually Sirius in the 60s on 6 and 70s at 7 and all those things that play the music that I grew up with and that I prefer to this day, or classic country or any of those sort of things. But you have to have, today in 2019 in the radio business, you have to have somebody who can engage people. Now, I haven't been as good as that as I had hoped. It wound up being all about me here at KVFD. But originally, when I talked with the folks who were here at the time about what this show would sound like, I really wanted it to be the voice of Fort Dodge. In talk radio, you say something provocative, someone calls right away, and then you agree with them. Whatever they're saying, you agree with them right away. But I don't know if we're too small a town or I'm not the right guy to do that. I don't know. But it never really happened. A state agency has launched an investigation into how sheriff's department in Jackson and Clinton counties handled an alcohol-related incident involving Assistant Jackson County Attorney Amanda Lassens, I believe the name is. This is from the Des Moines Register. Brett Dahmer, an investigator in the Iowa Office of Ombudsman, confirmed that his agency has notified Jackson County Sheriff Russ Ketterman and Clinton County Sheriff Rick Lincoln that their departments are facing an investigation into how they conducted their work after finding Lassens parked on the shoulder of U.S. Highway 61 with beer cans scattered about. Police did not subject Lassens, who regularly prosecuted drunken driving cases in Jackson County, to a sobriety test at the scene in the early morning on April 6th, even though a Clinton County deputy wrote in his report that she was slurring her words. The same deputy transported Lassens to her office at the Jackson County Courthouse, where she spent the rest of the night. I'd say the Assistant County Attorney, Jackson County Attorney Amanda Lassens, was ripped out of her head. But apparently she got a pass. Dahmer has refused to elaborate on the specifics of the investigation. He said questions raised by the Maquoketa Sentinel Press news stories drew his agency's attention and sparked the probe. I'm quoting this article, hoping that you'll see that the local newspaper in Maquoketa actually revealed some apparent malfeasance. I haven't seen the Fort Dodge Messenger do that yet. Not for years, anyway. If somebody can recall a time where the Messenger broke a story, you let me know. 515-955-1400. If it wasn't for the Maquoketa newspaper, the citizens of that area, Jackson and Clinton counties, this is in Jackson County, wouldn't know that they had a hypocrite, apparently, as county attorney. Boy, that takes some guts, doesn't it? Prosecute drunk drivers and then become one yourself. This is what it appears at this time, I should say. Last week I talked with my friend Janice Valentine, and Janice is real sharp. And I really enjoy speaking with her on the air. And beyond that, I think that she and I and Jerry Schnurr and others are doing something good in our community. I really do. And we talked a little bit about something in the Iowa Standard, and I'm trying to talk with Randy Evans of the Iowa Standard right now. I think we're going to get something going tomorrow. But it seemed to imply that there was some lobbying going on, perhaps by the Chief Justice's office, and there was lobbying going. As a matter of fact, I talked with Ann Meyer about it. There seemed to be some lobbying going on to keep the current system of judicial nominations and to keep the way Chief Justices are selected to be the same. Now, this is from the Civic Skinny, and Janice sent me this, and I'm going to read it to you in its entirety because I think it's important. This is again from the Civic Skinny, an addition to the Des Moines Register last Friday. The Republican legislators' late-night sneak attack on the Iowa Supreme Court wasn't really about how justices are selected. This is not the way that I would have put it. Our Supreme Court needs to be changed. As a matter of fact, our entire court system, which allows a small group of people to decide the moral nature of our people, is wrong. According to the Civic Skinny, I won't do this verbatim. According to the Civic Skinny, it was an uncalled for poke at Justice David Wiggins, an unconscionable coup against Chief Justice Mark Cady, and an unseemly power grab by Justice Tom Waterman. Apparently, April 27th, as the session was winding down, Republican House members went along with the Iowa Senate's proposed new procedure for selecting members of the nominating commission that sends the names of potential justices to the governor. It was really a tiny, meaningless, and I'm surprised Ann Meyer talked about agreeing to this. It was a tiny, meaningless adjustment. It was interpreted as a way to ensure that conservatives would be named to the 7-justice court. But weeks later, under the existing procedures, they already had gained control when Christopher McDonald was named to succeed liberal Darrell Hecht, who passed away April 3rd. That gave the conservatives a 4-3 edge. Oh, so we're acknowledging political bias. Even in the Civic Skinny, they're acknowledging political bias in our judges. If we all acknowledge that there's political bias in the Supreme Court, why are we allowing them the unquestioned authority that they have? Why were conservatives then so eager to pass the law? Because it had another section mentioned as an afterthought. If at all in stories and commentary, that section was called for a change in the way the court picks its chief justice. And its effect oust Cady, and in effect oust Cady from the leadership seat. I don't know how that could happen. They can still vote for Cady. Until now, the law, according to the Civic Skinny, called on justices to pick one of their own as chief justice to serve until his or once her 8-year term on the court was up for a yes or no renewal vote by the people. Cady was unanimously chosen to fill a vacancy as chief in 2011 and unanimously reelected on a motion by Waterman, the record shows, in 2016. He was to serve through 2024. The new bill now says the chief must be elected every 2 years beginning in 2021. There's just one reason for that. The conservatives, not happy just with a majority of justice and not happy just with turning the Supreme Court into a subsidiary of the Federalist Society. Oh, no, not the Federalist Society. Wanted to cement their power by having one of their own as chief. They wanted Waterman. This is according to the very liberal Civic Skinny. And Waterman wanted Waterman to replace the moderate and even-handed Katie. I would not describe Chief Justice Katie as moderate or even-handed. I would describe him as a full-blown liberal who believes the Supreme Court is the social driver of change in our society. Terry Branstad put Mark Katie on the court. Terry Branstad could give a hoot in hell, the way my grandfather used to put it, a hoot in hell about social issues. He wanted to make sure that we had low taxes and less government regulation on business, and that's what we have. Two justices, Waterman and Ed Mansfield, have made it clear that same-sex couples had a right to marry under the Equal Protection Clause of the Iowa Constitution. Now, Waterman and Mansfield were a little more dubious. They didn't have the arrogance to change 5,000 years of tradition and our tradition here in Iowa. And by the way, the Supreme Court in Iowa and at the federal level in the early 70s both dismissed petitions from gay couples to marry as without merit. But the Varnum decision instructs us that Iowa has always had this fine liberal tradition, and it's time to continue it. Bull. 5 or 6 Republican legislators, including our own Ann Meyer, didn't like the bill and planned to vote against it, despite pressure from their leaders. Ann Meyer was summoned to the governor's office twice. They were standing firm. All but one Republican, Megan Jones of Sioux City, supported the action, which was an amendment to a budget bill, and a last-minute switch allowed the amendment to pass. The switches came after top conservatives, apparently including Justice Waterman, made some highly unusual calls to legislators, saying the Republicans on the court wanted that bill to pass. Some lawyers, the bar is pretty upset, but officially mum about this, says that if Waterman or any other justice called or met with legislators or the governor's office about the bill, they may have violated the Code of Judicial Conduct of the state. A judge shall not consult with an executive or legislative body or official under limited circumstances, the code says. Lobbying for a bill is not one of those circumstances. This is according to Cedar Rapids lawyer Bob Rush and several Democratic legislators. And they've sued Kim Reynolds and others about this bill in the Polk County District Court, saying the bill was passed illegally and, among other things, violates the Iowa Constitution by dictating to separate co-equal branches of government how its leadership, in other words, the Chief Justice, should be selected. Don't give me that yak, Bob. Among other things, the suit means the plaintiffs will be able to take depositions from legislators and perhaps justices. Oh, this would be good. A justice giving a deposition. If that happens, the question of whom called whom, who lobbied for whom, and why votes switched could come to the fore. This could get interesting. The lawsuit ignores other potentially successful attacks, especially one that could invalidate the shortening of Katie's term. That falls under judicial precedent in statutes that bar retroactive changes to the statutes, one of the Des Moines lawyers argued. I don't think so. I think Justice Katie is going to have his term reduced, but of course he can always be reelected at time and time again. Yeah, that's just it. As for Justice Wiggins, he was just collateral damage. As a senior associate justice, he chaired the nominating commission under the old law, a commission made up of 8 gubernatorial appointees and 8 appointees of the bar. The new law eliminates that role and gives the governor a 9th appointee. The commission elects its own. There's no real reason for the change. David Wiggins-led commissions gave Reynolds a list of 3 nominees for 2 recent openings, and they included now Justice Susan Christensen and McDonald. Both are reliable conservatives. But Wiggins flat out gets under the skin of his conservative colleagues. He can be grumpy and curt as he is smart, and he showed up at a Rotary Club meeting in Des Moines when he was trying to save his own skin on the court and was a total arrogant jerk from Rotary members in Des Moines I've talked to. So there you have it. Justice Katie had nothing to do with any lobbying. This is KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
The Trump administration sends a new message to Iran. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. This as Iran announces it is now in breach of the nuclear deal the U.S. pulled out of. Fox's Jared Halpern is live in Washington.
The Trump administration says maximum pressure will continue to be applied to Iran, a White House statement calling on the Iranian regime to end its nuclear ambitions and its malign behavior. Iran announced it is increasing uranium enrichment beyond limits set in the 2015 nuclear deal. President Trump withdrew the U.S. from that pact that was agreed to by Iran and European and UN partners. Since then, tensions between the U.S. and Iran have grown. Last month, Iran shot down an unmanned U.S. drone. President Trump says he was within minutes of ordering airstrikes in response. Lisa.
Meantime, Jared, the Trump administration also insisting today that it still wants full denuclearization by North Korea after a published report suggesting they might settle for less.
The National Security Advisor, John Bolton, saw that report, tweeted it out and said, quote, I read this New York Times story with curiosity. Neither the NSC, National Security Council staff, nor I have discussed or heard any desire to settle for a nuclear freeze by North Korea. This was a reprehensible attempt by someone to box in the president. There should be consequences.
Fox's Rich Edson at the White House. Several Democratic presidential hopefuls have criticized the president's historic walk into North Korea and unexpected third meeting with Kim Jong-un yesterday as a photo op. A Facebook facility in California evacuated as officials investigate a bag of mail that tested positive for the nerve agent sarin. No person at the mail processing warehouse has shown any sign of exposure, but the building is under quarantine as that investigation continues. Officials have not ruled out the possibility of a false positive reading. This is Fox News.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
Ah, the bull elk's bugle, one of nature's most wondrous sounds. That is not a bull elk, that's Kim. Her RV sewage tank is spewing all over her camper. Way, way out in the middle of elk country. Yep, there's an elk. And that's Kim. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Navy SEAL chief says he's not nervous at all with his war crimes case about to head to the jury. Eddie Gallagher is accused of killing a wounded prisoner in Iraq in 2017. Navy prosecutors using Gallagher's own words and photos against him.
Now, in their closing argument today, Navy prosecutors again brought up the photographs Gallagher took posing with the body of the dead ISIS fighter, the testimony of two SEALs who said on the witness stand they saw Chief Gallagher stab the fighter, and a series of texts Gallagher sent. Prosecutors putting them up on a large screen for the jury, including one text which read, quote, "Cool story behind this. Got him with my hunting knife."
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in San Diego. The defense argues that SEALs who didn't like Gallagher as a boss are out to get him. One medic testifying under immunity during the trial that he was the killer, not Gallagher. Students in Kentucky lose an appeal in a court fight over the chickenpox vaccine.
More than 24 Catholic school students and their parents have lost a court appeal to a 3-judge panel in Kentucky in challenging the health department's efforts to control a chickenpox outbreak. The state canceled extracurricular activities and later imposed a temporary ban on school attendance for unvaccinated students. The students plan to appeal to the state Supreme Court, claiming the health department is infringing on religious beliefs. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A big upset in the first round at Wimbledon. Teenage sensation Coco Gauff knocking out Venus Williams in straight sets. Venus at 39, the oldest woman in the field. Gauff at 15, the youngest competitor ever to qualify in the pro era there. And that wasn't the only Wimbledon upset today. Two-time major champ Naomi Osaka, number 1 until a week ago, was also knocked out in the first round, losing to Yulia Putintseva. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs level off around 90 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 71. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, high of 87. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with storms possible both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 89.
I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. We're a full-service funeral home with an off-site crematory. At Bruce's, we specialize in pre-arrangements and family support before, during, and after the service. We also offer beautiful memorial items to help you remember your loved one forever. Bruce Funeral Home is proud to be by your side every step of the way throughout the funeral process. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge.
Assistant Majority Leader of the Iowa House of Representatives, Mike Sexton, and some really unimportant guys
that are stupid.
On AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a long time, way too long, since we had the Scrapster on the air. Representative Mike Sexton, and he joins us now. How are you, Mike?
Good, Doctor of Truth.
Well, you're going to take issue with what the Civic Skinny had to say about Chief Justice Cady and the whole situation with changing the way we pick our judges. According to the Civic Skinny, Justice Cady did not lobby at all. But you're telling me that he has lobbied on behalf or against some of the changes that Republicans wanted to make in how we choose Supreme Court justices?
That's exactly right, Mike. He called me the afternoon before we ran that amendment. I had a 515 number come up on my cell phone. I was actually sitting on the House floor, and I answered the phone, and it was Chief Justice Cady, and he asked me, Mike, what are you guys going to do with this amendment? It started out as, where are you guys at on that? And I said, I'm not sure. I said, I think we have the votes. I don't know. We haven't caucused this afternoon. And anyway, I walked back out into the back, because they don't want you talking on the House floor, of course, on your cell phone. And he said, where are you at on this? And I said, I'm going to vote for it. And he said, Mike, I wish you wouldn't. He says, that's going to cost me my chairmanship on the Chief Justice, that organization he belongs to. And I said, that's not quite true. I said, as long as you continue to get reelected, I said, you'll be able to keep your chairmanship. We visited for a little while, and then we kind of, parted our phone conversation. And so I don't know what you want to, I was interviewed by the Cedar Rapids Gazette, probably 2 weeks ago on this issue, and they were surprised that Chief Justice Cady had called anybody. And I said, well, I've got my cell phone. I have proof that he called me. But the lady that interviewed me said, well, we heard that the other Supreme Court justices that you've mentioned, Mike, on the conservative side, came to you guys' caucus, the Republican caucus. I said, that never happened I don't think I've ever missed a caucus. And so there's all kinds of stories flying around right now.
Yeah, that's a little unusual. I asked, we like Ann Meyer. We love Ann Meyer. I asked her if she had talked with Justice Cady about this issue, and I believe she told me no. But others have said that they were pretty tight over at the Growth Alliance dinner. So I would be, I don't believe Ann would lie to me. Maybe it was before or after. But I'm going to ask her the next time we talk if Justice Cady lobbied her on this issue. It doesn't sound like Justice Cady was concerned about anything else other than his status as Chief Justice. I mean, it wasn't legal or immoral or something. Is that all that he was concerned about?
No, I think his biggest concern, Mike, was that, he's going to be chairman. I think the incoming chairman of this Chief Justice organization, which is a nationwide and it's an honor. We all recognize that. but you have to be a chief justice to keep the chairmanship of that organization. That's the way I understand it. And I think that's his whole concern was, if he was not, reelected, then he would lose his chairmanship of that organization. So, I believe that's his concern, and that's a legitimate concern.
Why is that? Why is that a legitimate concern?
Well, because he wouldn't be he couldn't be the chairman of this organization.
Well, is it?
It's a legitimate concern on his part, Mike. I'm not saying it's a concern or a legitimate concern from Mike Sexton or the legislature.
Or the people of the state of Iowa. That doesn't mean jack to us.
Well, that's true. And that's what I'm saying. But I think it was an important thing to the Chief Justice. And I do, and I think it is. I think people can see the writing on the wall is that when I voted for this, did I believe that Chief Justice Kading is going to have a hard time getting reelected back to being Chief Justice? Yeah, I think he probably will. I recognize that as a legislator voting for this amendment, that this could change what the bench looks like. Yes.
Well, that's what we voted for. That's what we voted for in part. Of course, I have never been a fan, as you know, of the authority that rests in the federal or state Supreme Courts. I think it's ludicrous in a democracy to have these two anachronisms wield that sort of authority. I mean, the people are shut out of the process. How can we talk about liberal and conservative chief justices or associate justices and then say that the court is unbiased and the envy of the nation? I hear that all the time from some of my friends and your friends here in this radio station that tell us, oh, yes, our unelected, impartial judicial system is the envy of other states. Well, 39 other states or 37 other states, something like that, hold elections for their judges. If everybody envies us, why the hell are they having elections? It's because they don't envy us. I'm going to talk with Randy Evans of the Iowa Standard tomorrow. I hope I'm going to talk with him tomorrow and see if we can get this sorted out further. But it sounds like there's some pretty serious spinning going on in Des Moines. It seems if what you're telling me is the truth, and I believe you, Mike. I don't. If it comes out of your mouth, I believe it. It sounds like the Civic Skinny is lying. And that's kind of a big deal. So I need to find out a little bit more about this and see how many other representatives have been approached, because I have a feeling that there was a lot. I have a feeling, or at least more than you. And please keep me apprised if other representatives like you were approached by the Chief Justice or advocates for the Chief Justice.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody else, I guess, to me, Mike, and that's what I told the Cedar Rapids Gazette, I guess I didn't view it as lobbying. I mean, I guess I viewed it as the Chief Justice wanting to know what I, and I know the Chief Justice, he's from Fort Dodge, and he and I visit, I see him in the Capitol.
He's a good guy. Are you there, Mike, or did you go?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, good.
And so he and I had talked about this probably 2 months earlier at an event. We had talked about this bill when it was a bill and not really an amendment. And so to me, it wasn't strange that he would have called me and said, Mike, what do you think's going on with this bill? But now, everybody's got the other the other justices, lobbying the conservatives, and it just, I don't know, Mike, but you're exactly right, Mike. And I've heard Janice, has said this, don't let politics get involved in our court system.
Yeah, well, Mike, for Pete's sake, that's exactly right. I love Janice and I love Ann Meyer, but I'm not, and I really think a lot of Jerry Schnurr, but that's not what happens. I mean, if the conversation you described, by the way, is lobbying, that's what the Chief Justice did. Mike, I want to thank you for taking a moment out of your day to straighten us out on this, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, take care. All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Got a painting or staining project to do? Check out Iowa Outdoors and Hardware first. Come in now through July 7th during their summer rebates event and save up to $80 on the industry's highest quality products, Valspar interior and exterior paint, and Cabot exterior stains. You're going to love the extensive paint department at Iowa Outdoors and Hardware. It's stocked with everything you need for your summer projects. For all your paint needs, see Iowa Outdoors and Hardware at the junction of Highways 169 and 7, Fort Dodge.
At Fidelity, we believe nothing should come between you and your money. So we're introducing zero account fees with zero minimums to open an account. All because we want you to invest with zero trade-offs. Visit fidelity.com/value to learn more. Zero account minimums and zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Expenses charged by investments such as funds and managed accounts and for commissions, interest charges, or other expenses for transactions may still apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, member NYSE, SIPC.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm sneaky, but I don't suck. Hey, you can't suck. You just, on this program, you just can't do it. That's why I have our friend Larry Baker from Iowa City, who will be known forevermore as Larry the Liberal. But Larry, you don't suck. Congratulations.
Michael, I thought we were going to talk about civility.
We are going to talk about civility, but there's different forms of civility. Here in Fort Dodge, if we say you don't suck, that's civility. Now, in Iowa City, I don't know, you might have to give each other bouquets of flowers.
Oh, Lord. I'm so glad I'm doing this.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I figured something out.
Come on.
You have me on your program because your ratings go up. And then your ratings go up, then your ad rates go up, then your revenue goes up, and then you make more money.
Oh, absolutely. I could be a millionaire by the end of this show. I mean,
and what do I get? I don't even get on the YouTube.
Oh, if I'm in Iowa, the next time I'm in Iowa City, I'll buy a cup of coffee. Anyway, Larry Baker is an author. He is the author of A Good Man. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding it up to the camera here, and that is I didn't know this until last week when I spoke with Larry, but this is Larry and his son some years ago. Larry does not look like this now. And I didn't look like that way either back in the 80s. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk about civility, Larry, and I do appreciate you calling in on short notice.
I'm retired. I got nothing else to do.
Okay, well, that's even better. I do want to thank you for calling in. There have been calls for the Democrats for civility. They have assured us that if the Democrats are elected, especially if a Democrat is elected president, we will return to civility. They then threaten all of us. All of those who are not on board with their program or with whatever Democratic program that they can think of, they're going to lose big time. I mean, Cory Booker is the worst offender. Cory Booker, as you know, during the Kavanaugh hearings, went completely bananas and told a lot of his followers to get in their faces. Those evil people, that would be people like me, who really wasn't down with the whole Booker program. Watching the debates, I was wondering what was civil about Kamala Harris. Joe Biden didn't deserve any of that. It was an ugly attack. And let me say again, Joe Biden was in there slugging for working people and for civil rights when Kamala was 5 years old. And he doesn't deserve this sort of nonsense from Kamala Harris or anybody. And I say that without being a big Biden guy. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. But I do admire him as a man. He's had terrible losses in his life, and he stayed in there slugging. He lost one, I think in the early 70s, I believe he lost a daughter and his wife in a terrible accident. He had two sons that survived. Beau Biden died tragically of cancer at the age of 44. He has another son, Hunter, who's way out there. Apparently has alcohol and drug problems and goes around F-bombing the president. This is Joe Biden's son, by the way. But Biden keeps his cool. if there is someone who knows what civility is, it's not Kamala Harris. It's not even Elizabeth Warren. It's Joe Biden.
Michael,
Yes.
has your coffee kicked in yet?
Oh, yeah, I'm amped up today, buddy.
I know. I'm just waiting for you to catch a breath here so I can sort of go back to the beginning.
Okay, I'm going to
Lord,
shut up
so
now.
much here. First of all, I love you mentioned the Kavanaugh hearings and civility.
Yeah, that was good.
It was good because I want to go back and recreate that wonderful moment when Lindsey Graham lost his mind.
He did, didn't he? He looked like a ticked off bunny rabbit.
You're talking about civility and non-threatening and respectful of his opposition. This is a really interesting topic, and I've been doing some thinking about it since you wrote me earlier this morning. It's like, where's the problem here? Where did it start? And do we even? Can you agree on a definition of what's civil behavior? Should we be? What should we be doing that our children can learn from? God, I sound like my grandfather now.
Well, you sound like an academic I had in my American government class years ago. Let's define these things. So, okay, I'll define civility. It is respect, period. Right. End of story. You do not spit on Eric Trump in a restaurant.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Do you go to a rally with effigies of Barack Obama hanging from a pole?
I wouldn't. I don't think it's in the same category as throwing Sarah Sanders out of a restaurant or spitting on Eric Trump or yelling at Mitch McConnell until he had to leave the restaurant. No, as far as public rallies like that, Larry, if they want to hang Obama in effigy or hang Trump or put up a big ugly baby balloon of Trump, that's allowed in a democracy, I'd say. It feeds the problem. I know what you're saying, but I think we have to allow those things.
Okay. So why is it that in the 2 years that Trump has been in office, the number of hate crimes and literal physical assaults against minorities has gone up dramatically? I want to tie this into civility, because civility has to have models. And I think part of the Democrats' problem is they are so appalled and pushed into a corner by the behavior of not just Trump, but the whole right-wing establishment, that they're grasping at any way to push back. And I agree, it's a mistake. Poor old Sarah Sanders is going to have to live with herself for the rest of her life. And if she's out eating in a restaurant, I get up and leave. I don't want to sit next to her. But that you're putting all of the sort of blame on the Democrats here.
Yeah, I am. That's why I invited you on, to defend.
To take all the blame, to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yes, I thought I'd bring you on and sacrifice you to the gods.
Okay. Well, my palms are bleeding right now. Okay. Oh, Lord. Let's go back to definitions.
All right.
Respect for the other person. Let the other person have an opinion. Listen to the other person. Don't interrupt the other person. You're taking one extreme example of sort of almost physical abuse and using it to define incivility. I mean, that's not even incivility. That's just plain, as my grandmother used to say, that person ain't got no background. They weren't raised right. You can tell I'm not from Iowa. And, it's a problem not confined to the Democrats.
So both sides do it?
Both sides do it. So one of the things we have to do is let's go back and why does it seem to be more of a problem now than it used to be? And there's an interesting theory out there, and I hate to sound like an academic here, but it's like people point out that look at the Republican and Democratic parties. They're very polarized, and they're polarized at the same time that the number of independents is going up. that whole clash is reflective of political activity, but it doesn't really reflect the country as a whole. And the other point is that I've been reading about is that more and more people have to express themselves because, and this I'm not sure I agree with, but because the government is more and more important in their lives, who runs the government becomes much more critical to them. And this goes right and left. I mean, the Republicans want the government to do what they want it to do, and so do the Democrats. And in both cases, the Democrats and Republicans are losing control. I mean, the Republicans have it now, but the Democrats are going to get it back. And the Republican response is going to be just extraordinarily hostile. So it's left up to guys like me and you, right?
It is. That's really why you're on the air. Not to be a sacrificial lamb. Well, kind of to be a sacrificial lamb, but not all the way.
Most polite man on Facebook. I realize that.
You are. That's the only place I can go to. Every now and then you get an outlier who comes sweeping in with some kind of strange attack dog philosophy. But mainly your friends are older people who are intelligent and informed. Well, I'm an older person. Today's my grandson's birthday. I'm an older person.
How old is he?
He's 8 years old.
That's a great age.
It is. It is. It's a great age. He loves sports, and we were down in Des Moines for an Iowa Cubs game on Friday night for his birthday. It was pretty cool. I'm talking civility here with author Larry Baker, and he has a chapter in his book that I've mentioned a couple of times, A Good Man, that says Harry and Jack have a threesome. Now you can tell he lives in Iowa City because Harry and Jack.
Where does this transition here?
I'm just trying to put this in context here, just to give your Iowa City bona fides. It says Harry and Jack have a threesome. Not Harry has a threesome with Vicky and Linda. It's Harry and Jack. So yeah, this guy's from Iowa City. We're okay with it. We're all on board. We're so tolerant. I'll tell you, we love this sort of stuff. And,
Michael, you know what? Your poor listeners are going to have this impression that I am like the poster child for Sodom and Gomorrah. and we, as you know, we are the Athens of the Midwest over here.
The Athens.
We are the beacon of culture and civilization.
Well, you are your own city-state over there, the People's Republic. Yes.
That's right. But that... It's one of the things that I think there's an extreme that the left is making a mistake about, and as you know, I'm not a big fan of political correctness.
No.
And so there's an idea that if we just control people's language, everybody will be a peaceable kingdom and everything. So nobody's feelings can be hurt. Nobody can run up against something that they disagree with or that makes them uncomfortable. That drives me crazy as a liberal, as a writer, as somebody who used to be in the movie business. You know, I think you're obligated to in a real exchange of ideas to test people. Now that doesn't mean you have to pour water on their head at a restaurant. But you have to be able to come up against somebody and challenge them. And I think that's where both sides are falling down right now.
Well, the idea, if you can control what people say, you can control what people think. And that is the ultimate goal of an authoritarian. What I see coming from the left, from the Democratic Party that I used to be a member of, actually, I still consider myself a Democrat, and these people are fascist thugs, frankly.
Well, back up. You're calling Democrats fascist thugs?
Oh, absolutely. If you can control what people say, you can control what they think. And that's the ultimate goal. It's not the Republicans or the conservatives insisting on speech codes or proper dress.
Okay. But it is the Republicans and those in the administration who are censoring information, who are eliminating science, who are creating this myth of the war on Christians and Christmas.
It's not a myth.
It's a myth.
Okay.
Smith.
All right.
So, you know, the Republicans want to use government for their own purposes, just like the Democrats do.
Oh, they do. Science. We don't need no stinking science.
No.
We have our opinion.
And I had this amazing discussion the other day with somebody about, it doesn't, you know, you and me talking or Facebook and all this, if we're not paying attention to the science of climate, the science of weather, you know, 10 years, all of these points are just going to be moot points.
Mm-hmm.
We're totally fornicated in the long run. And the impediment to that right now, as you know, is the Republican Party.
No, I don't know that. No,
I just told you, Michael, so you know it now.
Oh, I know it now. I'm sorry, I do. Here's an unusual story. It was reported on the internet. That's why I know it's true. Beto O'Rourke, who's an Irish Catholic, by the way. Beto O'Rourke has crossed the Rio Grande. And I mentioned this a few times today. Beto O'Rourke.
Washington and the Delaware.
Oh, there he goes. And he is talking to people who are seeking asylum. I guess that's the polite way to say it. Actually, I think they're just a bunch of people trying to break into the country and do God knows what. I have a little bit different attitude on the whole thing. But Beto O'Rourke is in Mexico talking to asylum seekers, asking for their support.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound radical to you? A presidential candidate.
It sounds desperate to me.
No, it does, doesn't it? And what is he doing campaigning in another country?
I think what he's doing is responding to Julian Castro.
Okay.
Castro, who cut him off at the knees in the last debate over the issue of immigration. And so O'Rourke has got to reestablish some credibility within the party on the issue of immigration. I think it's a dumb idea. I think the balance tipped for him, and he's never going to be able to come back up again.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think that. I really think that the Democratic Party. I think they're past the whole white guy running for president thing on their ticket. I think they really want a woman. Maybe they can get Kamala Harris. I don't know. But they don't want another old white guy. And there's a couple old white guys up there. And Beto is not an old white guy, but he's a white guy, which is close enough. So I think all you white guys need to go home.
Here's the thing. And what you're saying to me, that obviously Pete Buttigieg is not even a guy, right? Saying, because he's a white man.
He's a white man, but he's gay. That's kind of a pass. Now, and he's a gay globalist. He's a gay Republican when it comes to economics. Now, he wouldn't be the first gay person to run for the Democratic nomination. Hillary Clinton ran twice, but Pete's he's the only one who's out about it. As a matter of fact, he's married to this other dude.
Michael, you know what the Clintons do to people like you.
Oh, they incinerate us. That's for sure. They have the IRS audit us clear back to my great grandfather. That's what they do.
And I have to make a parenthetical statement here to all of my liberal friends.
Yes.
Basically, I am not only a teacher, I am also a comedian. So lighten up, everybody. I'm making jokes here.
That's right. We're having a little fun.
I don't think that Hillary Clinton is going to come and murder Michael Devine in his sleep.
Oh, she'd like to.
I don't believe that.
She'd really like to whack Donald Trump. You took my prize.
Okay, I'd like to whack Donald Trump.
Easy now. Easy now.
I know the Secret Service is listening.
Yeah, well, the Secret Service gets a little touchy about threatening the life of a president. I mean, and this one in particular, because they figure, well, a lot of people want to whack Donald Trump.
Since Trump's threatening the life of America. Oh, Lord.
Larry Baker, an author and a retired. You were at Kirkwood, is that right?
I was a history teacher at Kirkwood.
History teacher, Kirk. We're going to be back in about 9 minutes. Call me in 9 minutes there, will you, Larry?
All right, I'll wake up. I'll set my clock.
Thank you very much. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
That's right, JMike1400. You can go there. We're going to do a little Ozzy. I'm feeling a little crank. 4:35, heading into the 4th of July long weekend. The news is next, and we'll be back with my good old Uncle Lair.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news from the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234.5 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426. Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month from 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income, produced partially by tariffs and flooding, pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Principal Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells Fargo Institutional Retirement and Trust business. Principal said earlier today it's beginning the integration of the Wells Fargo's 401k, pension, executive deferred compensation, employed stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with the deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team and says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $80 to $27 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If there are debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who have emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job, I will use this seat to move the political center to the right. There isn't anybody that will disagree that I have done that. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans or no party, they all know that I've kept my word and I've moved the political center to the right.
Congressman King is raised far less than his most prominent Republican challenger, State Senator Randy Feenstra from Hall. Former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad donated to Feenstra's campaign, and the top Republican in the state Senate spoke for a Feenstra fundraiser over the weekend. Republican leaders in Congress stripped King of his committee assignments in January. That came after comments published in the New York Times, where King questioned why the phrases white nationalist, white supremacist, and Western civilization had become offensive. King says he was misquoted. And Iowans who are planning trips this week will find plenty of company on the road. The number of travelers over the 4th of July weekend is expected to set a record, not just for the holiday, but for all holidays. Rose White is a spokeswoman with AAA Iowa. Estimates a record 49 million Americans will be taking trips of 50 miles or more from home during the long weekend.
This is the highest level since AAA began tracking holiday travel 19 years ago. Now, we predict drivers will experience the greatest amount of congestion in the major metro areas on Wednesday, July 3rd, as the commuters mix with the holiday travelers.
Travel volume for the holidays expected to rise more than 4%, with nearly 2 million more vacationers than a year ago. A record high 41 million people will be traveling by car, which means higher demand for gas.
For Iowa, prices are much lower than the national average, currently sitting at $2.53 a gallon, which is 16 cents lower than a year ago.
Factors driving the boosted travel numbers include favorable gas prices, low unemployment, robust consumer spending, and rising disposable incomes. A large refinery in Pennsylvania is shutting down following recent explosions and fires. And White was asked what effect that might have on gas prices in Iowa.
It may or may not at this point. We do not know. We know it certainly will impact the region along the East Coastline, but as they do need additional supplies from other sources, if they do have to tap into some of those in the Midwest, it could certainly tighten our supplies as well.
The national average price for gas is $2.69, down 15 cents from a year ago. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs level off around 90 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 71. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, high of 87. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with storms possible both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 89.
Jennifer Wojcicki. I just love that name. Larry Baker, is that you in the air with me right now?
I hope so.
All right. My good old Uncle Lair is on the air. We're going to do the obituaries, and we're going to talk with Larry Baker. The obituaries this hour brought to you by Bruce's Funeral Home, the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact Bruce's Funeral Home, the historic Bruce's Funeral Home, by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Kathleen Goodner Prohaska, formerly Prohaska, 63 years old of Fort Dodge, died on June 30th at Iowa Methodist Medical Center in Des Moines. Kathleen Prohaska was born here in Fort Dodge, and she is survived by her husband, David Goodner, by her children, James and Trapper Underwood of Fort Dodge. Again, Kathleen Goodner Prohaska has passed away. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. My good old Uncle Lair coming up at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Warning, sharks sighted in water. Warning signs are handy, but you may not always get one when it comes to your identity or the personal information on your devices. Good thing LifeLock includes Norton Security for more detection and more protection. No one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock looks out for identity threats like your info for sale on the dark web, and Norton Security protects against online threats like ransomware. Join at LifeLock.com and use promo code NEWS to get 10% off your first year.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
Doing business like a CEO while saving like a CFO.
Staples has all the supplies you need to run your business like a boss at prices that'll make your bookkeeper smile. Everything from paper to pens to folders.
And right now, Staples 2-pocket poly folders are 50 cents each, and 12 packs of True Red Black Ballpoint stick pens are only 97 cents each at Staples.
Where there's a whole lot in store. In store only. Offer ends 8/31/19. Limit 30 on folders while supplies last.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth. I say that humbly. I am the Doctor of Truth here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I got to mellow out because we're talking civility with my good old Uncle Larry here. So I'm playing a little Ripple by the Grateful Dead. Going to roll up a fatty and talk with Larry. Here we go. So I'm talking with Larry Baker. He's a retired historian at Kirkwood College, and he is the author of A Good Man. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, as you should, and if you're watching and listening, getting the full package, so to speak.
I look great. All right.
Well, Larry's not in the studio. He's down in the People's Republic. But,
Michael, I'm still trying to process this concept of you being the Doctor of Truth.
oh, haven't you heard that before? Oh, I thought I told you that. Yes, I'm the Doctor of Truth.
I find myself gasping for breath over here.
And I'm making radio great again, Larry.
I also want to know, when I croak, will you read my obituary?
I will do that. I will do it, and I will talk about the threesome with Harry and Larry, and who else you got in here?
Now, to be truthful, in the book, that chapter talks about the two men talking about their ideal threesomes. And for your audience, the radio talk show host named Jack Tunnell is his threesome is him, Laura Ingraham, and Nancy Grace.
That wouldn't be mine.
Yeah.
I'd pass on that one.
Yeah, and mine would be Flannery O'Connor and Emily Dickinson.
Oh, I just go for a couple of good-looking girls. Really.
Oh, yeah.
We don't need to talk that much, do we, Larry? I mean, come on.
No, I want to go back to this question of civility. You watched the second Democratic debate, did you?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
Okay. Who was the most civil person on that stage?
I would say Joe Biden, really.
Well, you would be wrong.
Well, that's because you're all in for Gay Pete. And Pete was civil, and he took a big beating unfairly, I think, over the situation in South Bend.
Oh, Eric Swalwell could just go away and play with himself somewhere else because he's not going to get any further. No, one of the things that people ought to look for in a candidate for the presidency of the United States is temperament, is character, is demeanor. How do you project yourself, and therefore, if you're going to be elected to office, how do you project the country? And that's one of the great failings of Donald Trump. He's an embarrassment. So I'm looking at forget Bernie Sanders' policies, for example. He's not presidential. I don't think most of the Democratic candidates up there are inspiring when it comes to representing the country. I think Biden would be fine. He's old school and generic.
Yeah.
But Mayor Pete is a very different kind of person, and he has the temperament you can see him on the world stage representing this country. Now, do I agree with all of his policies? Of course not. I mean, I think this idea of reparations is a bad idea politically. Forget the merits of it. The idea of, quit talking about the Supreme Court and the Electoral College. Those are nice, think tank ideas, but they're not political ideas that are going to help you get elected. But overall, he's the kind of person that you want representing this country. And part of that is his absolutely civil tone.
I know you've got this big thing for Pete Buttigieg, but I got to tell you, you're wrong.
If I was gay, I would be in love.
I know that, Larry, but I know you're not gay, and I know you're not in love. Well, maybe a little guy love going on here, bromance, I don't know.
Bromance, yeah, right.
But Pete, the country may be ready for Pete Buttigieg, but it's not ready for his wife, Bob or Ralph or whatever the guy's name is.
Chasten.
Whatever. You take if President Buttigieg wants to go to a trip to the Middle East, I mean, his wife might be seized and executed. I mean, we can't.
Michael.
What? It's the truth. I mean, gay people are in big trouble in the Middle East.
I know that, which is exactly why you want Buttigieg as the president.
Now that's Iowa City logic, I got to tell you.
The embodiment of the rebuke of that sort of middle-age ignorance and hostility.
Mm-hmm.
And you take your spouse, you take Chasten to the Middle East with you, and it's sort of like stick it in their noses, you know. And besides, you got the Secret Service, so you're covered there.
Oh, really? So you want to go to the Middle East with President Buttigieg so we can stick it in their noses?
You know, this is a different.
This is a
program.
conversation about civility here.
No, he will be civil as can be. His very presence on the world stage is a thumb in the eye of gay bashers all over the world.
Now that is an unusual reason to support somebody.
Well, no, and I don't. Here's the thing. I think him being gay is the least interesting thing about him.
Oh, no, you don't.
No, I do.
No, you don't.
A few more years, this won't even come up. That subject won't even come up.
No. Well,
he's going to get it out, and then they're going to get the subject out, and people are going to get used to it and say, okay, now, what do you got going for you? Where do you stand on that tax break? Where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on that? And nobody will go flying fudge cookie about who's gay and who isn't gay.
Well, let's have this nightmare scenario for liberals everywhere. All right. Justice Breyer is elderly. Justice Ginsburg has had cancer twice in the last year, and she's 85 years old.
Yeah.
I do not wish ill of Justice Breyer.
I know where you're going, Michael. I know where you're going.
But we could get a couple of more Trump Supreme Court nominees and appointments who would reverse the ridiculous reasoning of Associate Justice Kennedy, who trotted out a gay marriage advocate, socialist. What was her name? Cott, yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it was Cott, C-O-T-T. She is a socialist who has been advocating for gay marriage since at least 1980, and Justice Kennedy used her as a reference point to make his fifth point.
Why do you care if gay people get married?
No, well, because it was an arrogant decision by but you want to talk about a throwback to the Middle Ages? A group of royalists who control our lives, a group of 9, that's offensive to the idea of democracy and to freedom. Absolutely.
Okay. So a conservative majority is going to make life in America better?
No, but I think it would be just desserts for those who have been living by the court, who have been telling us that the court can do no wrong, who have been telling us the court gets to define what's constitutional. I think that would be wonderful. Yes, I do.
Follow through on your logic.
I'm following through, Larry.
Okay. So it's in your sort of, I'm looking at Hobbesian world here, your Darwinian world, it's payback for all the liberals and Democrats who use the courts to make life better in America.
Well, it's questionable whether they did that, but
what's the worst liberal Supreme Court decision?
Oh, Citizens versus United. Citizens United, of course.
That's not a liberal decision.
But the liberal majority carried the day, didn't they?
Liberal majority.
No, here we're getting off track here. I want to respond to your Hobbesian remark here. It's that is hardly my only reason, and that you would tell us that the Supreme Court is doing good things means that you agree with this small group making decisions that you consider good. I want to remind you again that a small group can make decisions that do really trouble the people like you. They can do that. That is what.
Absolutely.
Now, you put aside liberal or conservative. We cannot allow that in a 2019 democracy. That is a throwback to a time when wealthy people bought their way into important positions. And that's almost as it is with the Supreme Court nomination today. It is as political as anything. We have more political than any Senate or presidential race.
Absolutely.
That
You're
cannot be.
right.
That cannot be.
Well, did I just agree with you?
Yes, you did, because I'm right. Because I'm the doctor of truth, Uncle Larry. I'm laying down the truthitude to you.
But
pretty scary, right?
It's not anything new.
I don't
Go back to
What? A
Go back to
monarchy?
the Dred Scott decision.
You're right. A monarchy is not new. That's my
No,
point.
I'm talking about this small minority group of people controlling our lives. The Supreme Court.
Yes.
I mean, there's some awful decisions that they've come up with.
Oh, I was going to say they have. But since the Warren Court, of course, they've been pretty liberal. They changed the culture. Liberals changed the culture with the Supreme Court, and now they're going to have to live with a different kind of reality. And they know it, too. There's pieces all over the place, think pieces, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all the big liberal papers. I'm not suggesting for a second that the Wall Street Journal is a liberal paper. But all over the place, we're starting to see articles about the court and how the court should not have the final say in a lot of different things. That would have not happened just a year ago.
Right. Because the court is reversing progress.
Well, yeah. What? Yeah. See,
Citizens United, the voting rights case, this case on gerrymandering just last week or so. I mean, the country is becoming less and less democratic.
yes, it is, because there is.
is helping make that happen.
I want to tell you that the court is making us lose faith in democracy if it already hasn't happened. We pass things, but in the state of Iowa and at the federal level, it goes through both of the lower houses and is signed by the president or the governor, and rule by 7 or rule by 9 comes along and says, well, it was nice that you guys worked for years to get this through the House and the Senate and have the president sign it. But we don't think it's in the Constitution. At least that's the baloney we're going to feed you. And we're just going to overrule you and impose what we want. That cannot be, Larry.
It's 4:56, and you're going to bring up the Constitution and want me to educate you about that.
No. We have to go, as a matter of fact.
That's my point. You slipped that in before I could really, correct the record here.
Well,
anyway, we'll talk again, Michael.
I hope so. Larry Baker's been our guest. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, AM 1400 KVFD, voice of Fort Dodge. That's where you're at.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks kicking off the month in the green with the S&P 500 setting a new record high as the U.S. economy enters its longest expansion ever on record. Investors reacting to the U.S. and China agreeing to restart trade talks. Among the gainers today, tech firms, many of which are seen as vulnerable to tariffs. However, industrial stocks fell. They came under pressure following a streak of some soft manufacturing reports. With the Dow rising 117 points, NASDAQ up 85, S&P 500 up 23. And Southwest Airlines is expecting that it will have to remove the grounded Boeing 737 MAX jets from its flying schedule beyond the current October 1st re-entry date following the discovery of a fresh safety issue. And America's biggest set of little railroads agreeing to be bought. Shares of Genesee and Wyoming rallying today, closing up nearly 9% after announcing that it will be acquired by Brookfield Infrastructure Partners in a deal worth $8.4 billion that will take the railroad operator private. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.125%. APR 4.22%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. 8.88% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
Windsor Manor in Algona reminds you, remember your senior neighbors and friends. Call, visit, and just be there for them. Check in on them. Make sure their medicine is up to date. See to it that they have food in the refrigerator. And make sure they're comfortable. This reminder is from Windsor Manor, 512 North Finn Drive, Algona, where they're all about safety, compassion, care, and attention. For more information or a tour, call Windsor Manor at 515-395-1512. Windsor Manor, always working for the dignity and respect for our seniors.
Well, a total hoot again today. I want to thank my guest, Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church. Certainly want to thank Larry Baker. Randy Feemstra, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will continue having a hoot. That's what we're going to do. 5 o'clock, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
This is Gary Rima, the voice of the UNI Panthers, and you can listen to exciting Panther sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
Same story, different sides of the ocean. I'm Del Walters, Fox News. Mixed reaction to President Trump's historic visit to North Korea, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to step across the border separating the North and South.
There was criticism from Democratic presidential hopeful Tim Ryan, who said on Fox's Sunday Morning Futures that Kim tested missiles back in May.
You don't reward that kind of behavior with a visit to your country from the President of the United States.
Also, the president at the G20 said he would allow American companies to do business with Chinese tech giant Huawei. But House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said on Fox that doesn't mean restrictions on tech secrets are lifted.
If you buy Huawei products, America will not share the information with you because we cannot trust where it will go.
The president plans a big July 4th celebration this week with a speech on the National Mall for the nation's birthday. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And North Korea hailing that visit as a major victory.
North Korean state TV calling President Trump's meeting with leader Kim Jong-un an amazing event. A newsreader saying the leaders exchanged historic handshakes in a place known as a symbol of division, the village of Panmunjom on the North Korea-South Korea border. When the president stepped onto North Korean territory yesterday, he became the first sitting U.S. leader to do so. Talks over nuclear weapons are now expected to resume this month. Simon Owen, Fox News.
Fox's Tucker Carlson will have an exclusive interview with the president tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. They are playing with fire. The president talking about Iran, saying the U.S. will never allow Iran to get a nuke. Tehran breaching the stockpile limit of low-enriched uranium set under the terms of the deal. President addressing the situation from the White House just moments ago, once again reiterating that they are in breach. This is Fox News.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
This is Carl on his motorcycle.
Let's ride till we run out of gas!
And this is Carl off his motorcycle.
Balsa wood is very different than teak. People confuse the two.
On his motorcycle.
Hey! Check out that view!
Off his motorcycle.
Let's do puzzles in the break room.
On.
Look at all that open road!
Off.
Look how long my fingernails are getting.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With this look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. A Fort Dodge ambulance was struck by another vehicle on Saturday night. The Fort Dodge Police and Fire Departments were called at about 7:30 to 1234.5 First Avenue North after receiving a report of a dog bite. The owner of the dog and another person at the home intervened, with the dog biting them as well. And then the dog got into a fight with a second dog inside the residence. Multiple ambulances were dispatched to the scene, with one of the ambulances then being struck by a van, with the van driving off. The only description of the van is that it's believed to be white, but no other information about the vehicle is known. The Fort Dodge Police Department is still investigating the incident, and anybody with information about the hit-and-run accident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department at 573-1426, or Webster County Crime Stoppers at 573-1444. Tips can also be sent online to wccrimestoppers.com or by texting LEC and the tip to 274-637. And a report says a June survey of business supply managers suggests economic growth will continue over the next 3 to 6 months in 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Iowa. The report issued today says the Mid-America Business Conditions Index rose to 55.4 last month and 54.3 in May. The April figure was 55.9. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss oversees the survey and says weak farm income produced partially by tariffs and flooding pulled regional growth below that of the nation. The survey results are compiled into a collection of indexes ranging from 0 to 100. Survey organizers say any score above 50 suggests growth. A score below that suggests decline. The survey covers Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Principal Financial Group says it's closed its purchase of the Wells Fargo Institutional Retirement and Trust business. Principal said earlier today it's beginning the integration of the Wells Fargo's 401k, pension, executive deferred compensation, employee stock ownership plans, and asset advice business. Principal Chair Dan Houston says Principal broadens offerings in retirement and asset management, doubling the size of its U.S. retirement business with the deal. Principal says it's appointing several executives from the Wells Fargo business to its retirement leadership team and says it will keep open locations in Minnesota, North Carolina, Texas, and the Philippines. The Wells Fargo retirement business manages about $80 to $27 billion in assets. Principal previously announced the $1.2 billion deal will be financed with cash and senior debt financing. Republican Congressman Steve King last debated a Democratic challenger in 2014, but King faces 3 Republican competitors in the 2020 primary.
If there are debates, I'm ready. I spend every day getting ready for them. I don't have to go prep for them and read up. It's what I do every day.
King says he's not given much thought to the idea of debating the 3 men who have emerged as challengers to his bid for a 10th term in the U.S. House. King says he made a promise to voters during his first congressional campaign in 2002.
If you elect me to this job,
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where dad is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. Thank you for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Tina starts off this hour in Houston, Texas. Hi, Tina. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hello, Mr. Ramsey. How are you doing this afternoon?
Better than I deserve. How can I help?
All right. Thank you so much for taking my call. It is certainly an honor. Well, currently I'm working at a media company and I hold 2 positions there. I've resigned from one to stay at home. I possibly have another offer from another company in the same industry. But the dilemma is that I have a non-compete. Ethically, what would be the best thing to do? And if I pursue a job with this other company, it would be breaching the non-compete agreement.
Well, you agreed not to compete. So the only way, I mean, assuming the document is written properly, they could sue your butt, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on top of that, you agreed. From a legal standpoint, you got a problem, and a moral standpoint, you got a problem. So, are you in a direct competitor? I mean, are you going to cause them, your former group, problems by being there?
Yes, it is a direct competitor. Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. What function do you do? What do you do?
I work at a media company, so I have technically it's a radio station, so I have an on-air and an office position there.
Okay. Would you be on air at the other place?
I'm not sure at the moment. That could be a possibility.
What are they offering you?
They're offering me, of course, higher pay, and they're offering me just a growth of the opportunity. An opportunity
do what?
Of growth. To do some like production work and things like that.
So your voice would be on the air?
Yes.
Okay.
Or I would be doing like production work, like creating it and traffic and things like that.
Okay. If I own the other radio station, I'd have more of a problem with you being on air in any way than I would you working in production. Okay. What you can do for production for the new station versus the old station is probably not something a whole bunch of different people couldn't do. Production's production. Obviously, it's both art and science, but the art part maybe you're better at. But obviously there are better people producing than others. But my point is that doesn't bring as much threat to them. But if they've invested heavily in building your brand and people know your voice, and you move your voice over to the other place, that I probably would enforce the non-compete if I was the other guy.
Okay.
I'm trying to put my moccasins on, put both sets of moccasins on my feet and think through this with you from an ethics standpoint. Because the way to solve everything ethics-wise in business is just ask yourself, how would you want someone to treat you? What if you owned the radio station and you had talent there that was on air and behind the scenes production? Under what circumstances would you let them go? Would you give them a release? I would give you a release if I were running it, as long as I didn't hear your voice on the air until the non-compete ran out.
So would that mean that I would have to go to my current employer and ask to get out of my non-compete contract?
It's the only option you have.
Okay. And what if I don't feel comfortable doing that?
Then you're not going to compete. Because if you go and just walk over there and take the other job, you're going to get sued. And you're going to lose if the contract's any good. How long is the non-compete for?
It is for 12 months.
Yeah, that's going to stand. In most states, I'm not an expert on the law, but I don't know Texas law for sure. Texas has got a little bit more freewheeling things than other states, but in most states, a 1-year non-compete in a business like what you and I are in will stand if it's properly written.
It is, and I had an attorney review it, and he said it isn't.
So what do you think your options are?
What do I think my options are? I mean, I'd like to pursue this other avenue just because
you can. No, I'm saying in order to pursue it, you have one option. It's either not. You have two options. Don't pursue it.
Correct.
Don't take the job. Well, you could three options. You could take the job and get sued, and violate your integrity because you gave your word. That's not recommended, either one of those. Or you can talk to your employer and talk them into some kind of a release. Which sometimes radio people are jerks. I understand that. They may not want to do it. And that's maybe why you don't want to talk to them.
That's why. Mm-hmm.
And so another option, I guess, is quit and ride out the non-compete before you take the new job. But if you go in, if they find out you're working over there, you're going to get hammered, girl. You know that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't.
Yeah, and there's not a legal. I'm not an attorney, but you've already talked to one. I think going over there and saying, I'm leaving and I'm going to go do something somewhere. I have this other opportunity. I would consider it a real honor, an act of mercy, if you would give me a written release for a portion of the non-compete. I promise not to speak on the air because I know you'd be concerned about that, but allow me to do production at the other place until the non-compete runs out.
Okay.
And that's what I would do. I would ask for permission because I don't know how else you're going to get to do this. You either don't do it, you quit and sit unemployed for 12 months. Or you stay in the bad job, you quit and sit unemployed for 12 months, you get sued, or you ask their permission. I think ask their permission is the least painful of these three.
Okay. And then what if they say no? Does that mean that do I still resign? Because that just puts me in a very awkward position.
Yeah. Do you have a job? Do you have something you can do other than in that business, quote unquote?
Yeah, I have. I'm probably getting another part-time job here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So
if you sat on the sidelines for 12 months, is it going to kill you?
No, but I just don't want to be inactive in this business because I know how much it hurts when you're not active. You know what I mean?
I don't want you to either, but you signed a contract that says you're going to be.
That's correct.
Unless they give you permission.
That's true.
So, what I'm going to do is quit if they won't give me the permission. And I'm going to sit on the sidelines.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. But I think if you go in there with your best sales voice on, I think you might talk them into it. If you just, you're humble and you're not accusing and you're not, they don't owe you, you're not entitled. It's not anything like that.